2, 1, and we're live. Hello, Gabby.
Hello. How are you, Joe?
Good. Thanks for being here. Appreciate it.
Thank you for having me. You're looking well.
Thank you. You are as well. I really enjoy following you on Instagram. You have a very positive Instagram page. It's full of information. It's beneficial. It's great stuff.
Thanks. I feel like I'm trying to figure that out. Like for a younger person, it's like, oh yeah, well, this is how you do it. And for me, I'm like, well, what do you really want to say? And I don't know. I think sometimes I would like to take more chances, but I do play it probably safe.
How so? Like in what way?
I try to be pretty honest, but sometimes you're always very aware that I'm not interested in getting roasted or spending a lot of time and energy in a hassle with somebody. So I think when I'm doing it, I'm as honest as I can be, but I'm aware of that.
What do you hold back on? Like what kind of stuff?
I think for me, it would just you'd just be more direct. But I think when you sort of say, okay, I'm going to occupy this space professionally that feels good to me, and like I want it to be overall pretty positive. If you're selling something, like maybe I'd like to try to sell something positive, but hopefully towards the honest a little bit.
Right.
And sometimes when you're doing that, you're also aware that like you're not as harsh as sometimes your inner voice is. And so you go, well, am I not being as completely honest and transparent because I don't really want to deal with it? So I'm just saying.
Because you don't want to deal with feedback, comments.
Yeah, and it's also just people who are frustrated or also they're not getting maybe the nuance or the subtlety of what I'm trying to say. Let's just say that social media is not the place for
subtlety and nuance. No. Not in the comments for sure, right?
Right. So I want to do stuff that seems authentic, pretty real, but hopefully skewed towards like either fun or something positive.
One of the things that I've recognized from doing a podcast is that some of the frustration when people do lash out, and you're like, this is like out of proportion. Some of it is due to the fact that it's very frustrating to just not be a part of the conversation if you disagree with, like when you're listening to just the fundamental, the act of listening to someone have a conversation and something comes up and you're like, but what about that?
That's a great point.
Why don't you say that? And it's like this, you get stuck.
Yeah,
and
it's a great point.
So then you leave it a shitty comment. Yeah. I'm like, God, that guy's a dick. But
it's a great point.
His frustration of not being able to communicate.
Interject. It's like your kid who would be like, hey, and they never get to butt in. Yeah, that's a great point. I think you've probably been tempered by doing this and have probably looked at it from a lot of different points of view because you have to.
Yeah, you have to. I've tried.
No, it's been interesting to like watch you over the years. I think what's interesting is watching you have an interesting place where you keep you sort of keep a level of neutrality even though you have an opinion. So you let other people express themselves, whether it's about a religion or a vaccination or whatever. I think that it's been interesting to see like you develop that skill even more.
Well, it's hard for people to express themselves as it is. Like live on a podcast is difficult. It's harder still if you don't allow them to, if you interject. And as well as we all know that when you have something you're trying to say and then someone talks over you, it's fucking frustrating. And when you're trying to formulate these words and then someone butts in and then you lose it, it's hard. So that's one of the key skills of learning how to communicate with people that I think a lot of people lose is the ability to listen. And also you have to have a good enough memory so you can hold on to what you were going to say and then allow this person to elaborate on their thoughts. And then when you give them the respect and allow them to elaborate on their thoughts, hopefully they'll return that favor and they'll allow you to elaborate on your thoughts. And then you get a much more balanced conversation. But there's so many people talking where they're just talking over each other and shutting each other down or taking the conversation into a weird place. It's just the only way to find out how someone feels about something is to let them express themselves. And if people get mad that I don't push back, it's like that's not always the best way to find out how a person feels. You got to let them talk.
Right.
I want to know the whole thing. I want to know as far into this as you can tell me why you think this. Right. Like instead of me just saying, no, you're wrong, I want you to explain it to me. I want to know whether or not I trust your process.
Do you bring that skill home with you?
Yeah.
I mean, you're surrounded by women.
It's tough, bro.
I'm serious. Like sometimes, because I even see it with my own husband. We have 3 daughters, but I mean, especially, when you have a pretty masculine male, I'm always fascinated to watch them navigate their home when they're surrounded by women.
I just give up most of the time. I lose every argument. I think, we communicate a lot of talking, a lot of even if they get upset, I try to. With girls, there's always things they're crying about, and like, okay, we're gonna be fine. And I don't want them to be like me. I want them to be themselves, and I want them to be girls. I want them to be able to be themselves. I don't want them to mirror my resilience. I want them to be vulnerable if they want to be vulnerable. But it's in terms of like how I decorate the house or I don't have no say.
Oh no,
that's nothing.
That's why you have
I have this place.
I was gonna say you have your cave here. Laird has a barn.
Perfect.
And he, when he meets young guys getting married, he goes, "Here, I'm going to teach you." Okay, you're right, honey. I'm sorry. And oh yes, whatever color you choose.
It doesn't always work. Some people, it's never enough. But if you have the right relationship, sometimes it'll work that way. Because I don't give a fuck what my house looks like. I really don't.
No.
Do I have a good view? Where's the coffee?
Yeah.
Okay, we're good. Is that grill work? Yeah. Okay. How's the bed? That's a good bed. Do we have a TV? Where's the TV? Is it a good one? Oh, it's a good TV. All right, we're good. We're good. Do I have a laptop? Okay, we're good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't need that much.
No.
So like when my wife's like, I'm going to put this here. I'm like, okay, put it there.
Fantastic.
Okay, I want to get that painting. Okay, get the painting. I don't know where you want to put it.
Yeah.
Just put it where it feels right. I don't give a fuck.
I think it's smart. I mean, like sometimes if I infringe on if it's functional, then Laird steps in like, that's not really functional. But otherwise he's like, I'm tearing some stuff out of my house right now and he just gives me a look and I'm like, I'm this age. If I want to do this, support me. And he just laughs and walks out. Like,
yeah, he probably doesn't care. Like, go ahead. It's in the way. Whatever it is. Whatever. Yeah. Have fun with it.
Yeah. What time's dinner?
Women love to decorate things. I get nervous if a guy's really into it.
Well, yeah, it's a nesting trip.
Yeah. Guys are like really into design in their own house, like really, really into it, like constantly obsessing about where things are and where they're supposed to be placed. I think they're called homosexuals.
Yeah.
I can't believe you went there.
What do you mean?
That's outrageous.
Is that a stereotypical thing?
That is outrageous.
Is that racist?
That might be. You might have showed your white supremacy. I'm not exactly sure. Yeah, it's a funny thing, right? Mm-hmm. But if I didn't have this place, though, I don't know if traditionally men had pool halls they could hang out at or gyms that they would hang out in and they would get their dose of toxic masculinity. Yeah.
Or a basement.
Or a basement. Yeah.
Yeah, you kind of need a place where nobody's touching your stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, if you live in a house like I do with all girls too, it's just everything's girly. Whatever. I'm fine.
Laird said he's like, I needed to be more specific. I said I wanted to be surrounded by women. He's like, I didn't mean be related to all of them.
That's hilarious.
I think it's nature or God's way of balancing it off. They say if guys have elevated body temperature, so athletes, people who train a lot, that they statistically have a greater chance of having daughters because I think we call it hot balls, basically. It kills off the male sperm.
That's hilarious.
And if you look around,
real?
I think so. They did a thing on a bunch of guys either in the NFL or whatever, and statistically they just have a lot more daughters.
Huh.
And I think it's like nature's way of going, oh, you're going to be all like moving and active and rah and all this stuff. Guess what? We're just going to put a bunch of girls around you.
Temper you.
Because my daughters say things to my husband I could never say as a wife. It's like I see it and I just go, oh, yeah.
Well, they know that for sure he loves them, so they can get away with it.
They're in.
Yeah, they can't get fired.
No, I always say that to them. Like my youngest daughter, when she was really little, like 5 or 6, she'd say, okay, so I'm not really clear with this. When I have alone time, I'm by myself. And when you and dad need alone time, like you're together. And I try to it's important for moms and dads because, we have to work it. I go, you're always going to be dad's daughter. We're working at being a husband and wife. And then she'd keep going with it. And I finally would just say like, hey, do you want to have Christmas in separate houses? And I'd see her think for a second, like, well, maybe, And I'm like, we need alone time.
Do I get 2 presents?
Yeah, that's what I mean. She was processing that. She's like, well, I miss you, but I don't know, So it's all that dance, because daughters, man, they don't miss a trick, and they're on you and they're on their dad like nobody's business.
Well, my friends that have sons, the way they say it is, it's like you take one of 2 things. Either you have this wild animal that's tearing things apart, or you have someone who's screaming and crying about something you don't understand.
Yeah.
Take your pick. You
mental judo.
Yeah, a mental destroyer or a physical destroyer.
Yeah, walls with holes and broken bones, boys. And girls, it's like, I have learned so much being a mother to daughters. And I've been around women my whole life. You figure playing volleyball, being around tons of women, it's very different as a parent. I mean, I've learned the most, especially teenagers.
Yeah, watching them grow is so strange. It's such a strange experience watching a person figure out the world from jump, like out the womb, figure out the world. Like, it's so educational. I don't think everyone should have children. I'm not one of those zealots that tells everybody, hey, you're not alive until you have a kid.
No, I think it's unfair to say that to people.
It is unfair.
I think it's
first of all, a lot of people can't. Right.
And maybe they have just a different path. Like I always tell my girlfriends too, like it's unfair also to romanticize, like to your friends who either opted not to have children or whatever, met a partner too late or didn't or whatever, because I think it is a really rich, I mean, there's nothing like it. I mean, I love my children, but I had one friend, she was like, got married later, and she was like, we're going to adopt. And she was also doing a new business, and I was like, listen, I need to come, I want to talk to you. And she also liked to consider taking naps occasionally. I was like, if you think you're going to adopt and like you're going to have a 12-year-old that's like, hey, I really appreciate you guys. Thank you so much. I go, that's not what, like if you think you're going to have a kid and it's going to make you happier, that's not what having a kid is. I think it makes you, makes you know yourself better in a different way, and you can adapt and do something different. But I think when people sort of sell that bill of goods, like, oh, you got to have kids. It's like, well, do you want to have kids?
Yeah.
I think it's, like you said, not for everyone.
You definitely shouldn't adopt if you think it's going to be easy.
That's what I mean. It's like she had this romantic idea of like, and I go, you don't, first of all, you don't know where the kid is coming from. And then also you have I think every parent going into it has a romantic idea. I did. And I'm a pretty realistic person of like, I'm going to do all these things right. And we're going to be, running in sunflower fields together. And my kids are never going to think my music sucks or I can't drive. And then you realize, I had a friend tell me, everyone gets their turn in the barrel. No matter what you do. Yeah. You have to navigate stuff. You're going to have to deal with stuff. For sure.
Yeah, and on the other hand, it's awesome when someone does adopt people if they're really into it, if they know what they're getting into, and those martyrs out there and those people that are just super kind and generous and love to adopt children, God bless them.
Yeah.
So glad they're there.
Yeah.
It's just, I agree with you that there are some people that have a romanticized idea of what it's like to raise a child. And
it's unfair, too, to sell it. Like, I love the moms like, oh, so when are you going to have number 2 or whatever to somebody? It's like, oh, that they're behind closed doors doing, like they just want everyone to be in the psychoticness with them. Like, I have 3 kids, you should have 3 kids,
There are people like that, right?
They do, yeah.
There's people that have a kid and then immediately take this moral high ground, like like they're doing something, and they're an adult, and you're just a fool.
Yeah, you're weird. Like, I wonder who is the fool.
Yeah, it's like
I ask myself that sometimes.
Well, don't you think you're a better person for raising kids? Does it make you feel like you're more in tune and nicer and just more aware of what it means to be a human?
Yeah, I not only that, I feel like it's a forced exploration if you're trying to participate. Like if you just lay down the law and go, hey, in this house, this is how we do it, then you're not doing anything. But I think if you learn to adapt and also go, wow, I was doing that wrong for like 10 years. Amazing. Like one of my daughters at 12 or 13 sort of revealed some stuff about what she was unhappy about my parenting. And I was like, God, I've been doing that for a long time. So I think it's
cool that she had the confidence to do that, though.
Yeah, it's so cool. I wanted to hear that like when she was 30 at the Thanksgiving table when she moved out. I was like, what? You're supposed to reveal all that like after you move out. And then I go, oh, well, did I do that? Sorry. You know?
Look, it turned out great.
It's
Give
amazing.
Mommy a hug.
Yeah. What time's your flight? No, I think, no, listen, it's a surrender. I think for me, it's been a real surrender because I just think you think you're in control of stuff and you think, oh, I've got some discipline and work ethic. I can just work my way through it or power my way through it. And then you realize like, no, you have to surrender. And also it's not just about solving it quickly. And it is, I know myself certainly better, but also it forces you, if you're willing to really expand. Yeah. And it is uncomfortable.
Well, I've been really fascinated by the life that you guys live in Hawaii. It's because I've always had this like idealized idea, like one day, like move to the Big Island, just chill on the side of a mountain, stop fucking around, fly out to do gigs, but live out there where everything's just more relaxed. Yeah. You know, is it okay?
You know, there's a lot going on, and like the Big Island is obviously big.
That's a city.
Yeah, no,
almost.
It's big.
Well, not the Big Island.
Yeah,
rather.
Oahu has, it's sort of like LA on the beach. But, you know, there's a couple things. I think because it is a primal environment, like we live on Kauai, which is pretty heavy duty as far as it's quiet. There's not a lot of distraction. There's a really heavy duty nature. And so I grew up in St. Thomas on the Virgin Islands. So I was used to kind of being on an island, but you're with yourself a lot. So if you have things to do that are, you know, productive, then it's perfect. But what you have to always calibrate is like the downtime, or it's been raining off and on for like over a year on Kauai.
Whoa.
Yeah. So after a while, it'd be like Seattle in that way where it starts getting heavy.
But it's sunny too, right?
It can be. And
that's the weirdest thing about the islands is that there's different climates on this island. Like the Big Island has desert. Yes. It has tropical rainforest. It has a volcano. It has all this shit. It has snow.
I think it has every weather climate except Arctic. I believe at least Maui and the Big Island have sort of every type of climate.
It's crazy that just a little bit further down, it'll be different. It'll be raining constantly.
Yeah, exactly. Or you just go the other side and it's completely dry, or they have dwarf trees because they never see the sun, but then they're, 200 feet in the places that it's sunny. It's pretty trippy.
And you could drive around the whole thing. And like, how many hours does it take you to drive around the Big Island?
Oh, the Big Island? I don't know, like 4 hours or something like that.
The whole thing?
I think so.
That's
maybe
crazy.
A little more. Yeah. You like the Big Island.
Love it.
Interesting.
I like Maui.
You do?
That's my favorite.
Every island's different. Their personalities are different. But I like it. I mean, we've been doing this for over 23 years. When I met Laird, big waves sort of come in winter. So when low pressures bring snow, like to the rest of the mainland, that low pressure can also bring big waves. And then my season was summer, so we sort of went back and forth. And that's a really good blend. Because you can come to California and be like, oh, it's a busy world. I can see a lot of people. I can learn stuff. I can do stuff. And then I also makes you appreciate. When you go back to Hawaii, you're like, clean air, really clean water, very beautiful place. Some of the ideas about the way they live there, it's simple in a good way. I don't mean that in any way like a derogatory. It's like they're not angling and trying to get somewhere. It's like, no, we're living.
Right.
But it can be also a really hard place. A really hard place.
How so? Well,
I think, and you're also talking about a warrior culture, right? Polynesians. So you have like this very intense love and, when they talk about the aloha spirit, generosity, they have like this, and then they're very powerful people as well. And sometimes if they're not living as they're in their most natural way that they were supposed to, and then you couple it with, there's not a ton of opportunities there. It's hard to live there. It's far away. It's expensive. And sometimes, it sounds cliche, but it's like we really do as human organisms either need to be busy. So like, okay, working from sun up to sundown for our food, which is how it used to be. And then you're just so tired, you just go to bed and it's pretty simple and let's just survive it. Or in the world that we live in now, it's like, how do we get people doing things that are kind of productive? And you think, oh, I just would sit on the beach and look at the mountain. And it's like, yeah, and after a while you get bored. And if you're a warrior, you're either going to go, do something with that is good for you, or you might not. So I think there's a lot of that there. I've learned a lot from that culture, but they're pretty powerful. They're a powerful group, and it can go the other way pretty quick, where it's if there's drugs and alcohol or beefing and like it's all that. So it's
that was really disturbing when I found out how much drug abuse there is on some of the islands.
Yeah, crystal meth especially.
Yeah, it's sad.
Well, it's again, it goes back to boredom. Like think about when your kids have to stay home for one day.
Yep.
It's just, and now we have all the internet and all this stuff. So now you sort of think, oh, the rest of the world has they're all busy and doing fabulous, perfect things. And it's hard. Like you got to find people that you're like, let's do something. Let's go. I mean, can you train alone every single time? No.
Right.
So you'd have to have a tribe of people that are like, let's go do this activity. And sometimes it's not that easy.
Well, so you say there's 70,000 people on the island?
On Kauai, yeah. Kauai is probably the least inhabited. It's the oldest island, so it has the most erosion, largest beaches. And that's where Laird grew up. And it's a really...
Lanai's the least inhabited of the islands, isn't it?
Well, yeah.
Or
Molokai? It's not
Molokai?
that I don't count it. Yeah, of the bigger islands.
Right.
Yeah, Molokai, man, you don't mess with Molokai.
No.
No, that's like you got to ask permission to go hang out over there.
Really?
Oh, kind of. Yeah, it's cool though, because it's like if they'd be like, no, you can't. You're out. You got to go.
Really?
Totally.
So it's
great.
So it's just the people that live there. You can't move to Molokai.
Yeah, Eddie Vedder has a place on Molokai.
Does he?
Yep, and it has had for many, many years. But I think he probably asked if that was going to be cool.
Oh wow, that's interesting.
Yeah, and it's beautiful.
Yeah, I have some friends that just went hunting there.
Yeah, beautiful.
Yeah, they hunted axis deer.
Yeah,
on Molokai.
Yeah, it's a beautiful place and the people are amazing. But it's not like, oh, I'm just going to buy a house there. Right. Or build a house. There's no way.
No way?
No way.
Wow, that's interesting that these different islands have their own rules.
Well, Nihiau is you can't go there.
You're not even allowed to go?
No.
I didn't even know that was an island.
Yeah, it's off of Kauai.
Can I say it again? Nihiau?
Nihiau, yeah.
Wow.
You
ever heard of that? No. Jamie's a big fan of Nihiau.
Yeah. He looks like he's been to Nihiau. No, wow. It's all they probably have the largest percentage of Hawaiians there.
Interesting.
So it's cool. Pretty cool.
That's got to be a great view. I found that there's a big difference between the culture of say Maui versus the culture of Lanai. Lanai is more islandy to me, whereas Maui seems like a little bit gentrified.
Well, also the wind, because Maui's so windy.
Yes.
It brought all the Europeans in the 80s to windsurf. So you also have not only mainland U.S. and then Japanese culture, 80s. Now you're talking about Europeans for wind and windsurfing. So it has a lot going on. I think Maui, it was almost like a surprise how quick it developed, and they never had a chance to get on top of it.
Oh, that's
if that makes sense.
That does make sense.
Yeah.
It's so populated. And it's also it's so LA. It's so Beverly Hills.
I lived there for 13 years with Laird. Yeah, there was a wave there that Laird was having a love affair with for many years. So we lived there so he could be close to his girlfriend for sure.
That's so strange.
No, every boy needs their girlfriend.
Every boy needs a wave.
They do. Well, girl, just something. That's what I always think is kind of natural. Is at least for my experience is I don't know if you ever go through this when you go home. Laird will go out and surf for many hours. He can go out for 5 hours at a time, and if there's surf, and he comes home, and I see how happy he is, to see us. He loves us. He's like, oh, my girls, And then about, 7.5, 8 minutes in, he starts to get this look on his face oh yeah, I'm in the house, with the family, I wanted to do a book years ago called Death by Domestication, because it's how does he manage both of those sides? Like, I need to go, I need to be free, I need to, chase things and like scare myself and do all this stuff. And then, comes home and is like, on the floor laying, with one of my daughters and being attentive and a great husband and all these things. But I always get amused a little bit by the push-pull.
Yeah, well, especially I think with the big wave surfer mindset, like a type of person, those are like some of the freest, wildest humans on the planet. It's a very unusual group of people that rides giant waves of water on the top of the ocean. I mean, that's a crazy thing to dedicate your time to. If you really stop and think about it.
I tried not to think too much about it because I did marry him, but there's some stuff. I mean, and weirdly, he's been doing this so long that you realize he's actually even more different than some of the other guys. Because if you think about it, he's sustained doing this for right now 40 years.
Wow.
So he's a guy who he has both. So what he wants to do is ride a huge wave during the day and then be with his family at night. And sometimes, it would take going, halfway around the globe or whatever. And so I think the pursuit, and they have to wait a lot. That's the other thing. These things don't come around that often.
Right.
It's very interesting to live with because there's a little bit of suffering that goes on. And sometimes Laird will say to me, because he's aware of time going by, he'll be like, I have a lot more waves I need to ride. And I'm like, I know. Like, it's a pretty deep calling. And now that, he's been foiling for 25 years, but now that they are getting that equipment better, it's sort of like, now we can ride places that we couldn't ride, that were not really attractive for riding on top of the surface of the water, even if you towed it. So now it's opened up a whole other pursuit for him. Yeah, it's very, I don't know why you would go towards that, though. Like, Laird has put me on a ski in front of a wave that's like 60 feet.
Right.
And like being on the back of a ski with him driving, there's a moment where you go, okay, and I'm sure you've experienced this with other friends that take you maybe on flying or something. This is what he does, right? So I'm like, okay, I trust him more than I'm afraid. That's fine. I can do that. And I'm going to surrender to that. I'm not going to torture myself the whole time. I'm just going to trust him. And you turn and there's a 6-story building behind you moving. And you just think, how is that fun? Like, how is saying like, I'm going to actively ride that. But now with the foils, because they're actually catching the energy below the surface of the water.
What are the foils? I'm not familiar with
So they have these things called Hydra Foils. So originally there was a guy named Mike Murphy who created something called the air chair. And they've been putting foils on like water skis in different funky ways, like even in the 50s. So Laird and his friends got an air chair and cut the chair off and put us snowboard boots, bindings, quick release. So you'd stand on it, you're booted in, and below is this basically a mini airplane with a strut. So for example, yeah, there's a shot of one. And this is a smaller one. Jamie, do you have any ones of the big with the boots? I think
so this is what people are using. I've never even seen. Did you know about this?
I've seen it.
Wow.
He knows about everything. What are you talking about? He's plugged in.
He's plugged in. Look at him.
Do you have a girlfriend?
Busy.
Well, what happened to this dude's head?
Oh, yeah. So there's Laird on the left, obviously. So you see how they're in the boots, and also the reason he looks so puffy is he has flotation underneath his wetsuit.
Wow.
So if you hit your head or what have you, but it's basically a miniature airplane underneath the surface. And if he gets into trouble, if they wiped out, they have a quick release. But now they've gotten this developed so that he can do it without the boots, because that adds an element of danger that...
Because you're strapped in.
You're strapped in and your strut is, 4 feet long, Wow.
That's so strange looking.
Yeah, but it's...
And what's going on below the surface?
So
What
there's
exactly
a
does it
miniature
look like?
airplane. Jamie, do you have any pictures of it flipped up? I'm sure if you look on Laird stuff, you can see the bottom. It's like a miniature airplane because water is denser than air. So it's sort of like a miniature plane.
Mm-hmm.
And it is. Like the Oracle guys that do those boats have made foils for Laird.
So that's what it looks like.
Yeah, so those are kind of more low performance ones. When you see the high performance, it's
looks like a
aerodynamics, hydrodynamics, it's all of that. So now what you're doing is, because there's energy below the surface moving.
Mm-hmm.
So we think of a wave like pushing and dropping, but there's actually the energy, circular energy below. So now you've got the foil that can ride that, but you don't have drag. So like they can go, there's a wave on Kauai where they're going over, 50, they go about 50, they can get up to 52 miles an hour.
Jesus.
So imagine if you did something, well, you've, dedicated yourself to martial arts. It's like, but then there's like a new way to do it.
Oh.
And so he's been doing the big stuff for 25 years, but now they're getting the equipment right that he can ride waves that actually wouldn't be that great, but now they're super fun.
Oh, wow.
So it makes him excited, and he still pursues it. And that's on Kauai right there. And see how it's not even breaking where he rides it?
Yeah.
So
no drag.
Correct. And it's actually riding the energy below the surface, which, for him, he's just interested in what's the most efficient way. I mean, look at that. You'd never in regular surfing be able to ride that. Wow. So it enables them.
Like so much fun.
You're flying. That's what they say.
Incredible.
That's what it's the difference, right? So they're flying. So that's, I think, kept him interested. But his pursuit of this it's a pretty interesting relationship to watch. I think it's important. I mean, as a female, for me, I think playing volleyball helped me understand like having a pursuit. Like something like I got to go do that. And I think it's something about living with a person who has a pursuit other than like I need a bigger war chest or whatever.
Right.
Can be really cool.
Is when you're riding that thing and there's the little airplane under the water, is there any risk of something thinking that airplane is a fish?
No, animals are pretty smart.
Are they?
Yeah. I know sharks don't have great vision. And I think Laird has, hit a turtle, not done anything but like grazed it or something. Mm-hmm. But those animals are pretty smart.
Right, but I was thinking of sharks.
No, that's what I mean.
Or maybe a marlin that thinks it's a fish.
Yeah,
tries to jack it.
I don't think they want to have anything to do with that thing.
No?
Just the speed and the shape, and also a lot of those animals don't want to get in that turbulent. It's still near a wave, but you know what? Maybe you never know. And if I hear of a story, I will definitely call you and tell you.
Please do.
Because I'll be like, a marlin came out, but those guys are smart. All those animals,
Marlins are smart?
Well, I mean, they know, usually, I know sharks, again, don't have great sight, but they're not like, I think they understand most times what's food. Obviously, shiny things and things like that, but
there are instances of people getting hit by sharks, right? And Hawaii is a big one, isn't it? Is it surfers
Australia is worse as far as like
right?
more, and South Africa is really a lot of sharks. No, Hawaii has their share, but nothing crazy. There's a story that happened like 3 weeks ago on Kauai in Honolulu Bay. This guy, great surfer, finishes his ride, jumps off his board, and jumped onto a shark.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
And the shark like turned, I guess, and sort of, he was a firefighter, this guy, and like grazed his leg and split. And I think it's just the reminder that sharks ultimately really don't want to have anything to do with you. I mean, maybe hammerhead's maybe a little more aggressive. Bull shark is the most, because I think, they have the most amount of testosterone of any animal. Mm-hmm,
they're the ones that can go to fresh water, too. Yeah,
the bulls. So they're sort of more actively aggressive. But, I mean, I don't think a shark, you're not good eating.
I watched a television show where they found bull sharks way up the Illinois River.
That'd be scary.
Whatever river it is in Illinois, I don't know what river it is, but they found them deep in fresh water.
Yeah.
These sharks make their way all the way from the ocean.
And Jamie, do you see anything about the testosterone? I think of any animal, they have the largest amount of testosterone or something like that.
They're mean little fuckers.
Yeah, they are.
Know that. They're responsible for that. The actual news incident that influenced the creation of the movie Jaws.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it happened in a river in New Jersey.
In Jersey, can you imagine?
A river, like a freshwater river. These people are getting murdered by sharks.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, that's what it was based on. They didn't know that these fuckers can swim way up into fresh water.
And they just got a hold of people?
Got a hold of a few people.
Yeah, because those buggers are a little more aggressive.
Yeah, they're supposed to be the most aggressive, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I think, for me with the sharks, like even Jaws impacted me with that soundtrack. And I was living in the Caribbean.
Ugh.
And it's just like, I don't know. My kids, whenever my one daughter's like, oh, can I get this movie on sharks? I'm like, no, because we live in Hawaii. Like, you can't be watching that stuff.
Yeah.
Shark testosterone myth busted.
Oh, it is?
Scientific American, yeah.
Oh, it's not real?
No.
Okay.
Damn.
Yeah.
Sounded good, though.
It did, didn't it?
Yeah, much more likely.
What are you? I'm a bull shark,
Yeah. But a tiger shark would sound even meaner. Mm-mm. No? I don't think well, bulls are meaner than tigers.
Yeah, they say bull and hammer are more aggressive than tiger.
Oh, yeah?
Laird and my daughter Reece just went do you know Mike Muller at all? Photographer, shoots sharks.
I know who he is.
Okay,
yeah.
he does amazing stuff, but
Yeah.
they go and they dive. So he took Reece and Laird and they went for like 4 days, and they go in the cage with the great whites out at the Galapagos, and they said it's pretty far out. You should do that sometime.
Fuck that.
Come on,
I've
you
seen
can
those
be in a
movies
cage.
where the shark gets mad, fucks up the cage.
Yeah, but people are probably doing stupid things.
Maybe
No,
I'm
seriously.
stupid.
No.
I just...
You'll do things like where guys hit each other in the head, but you won't go
Yeah.
sit in a cage.
That seems normal to me.
They say that once you see them under, that you have a different feeling, though. Like it's not that you're not as scared, but you just see them a little differently, not just like a predator.
Right.
Laird says you can see the pupil of their eye and everything.
Did you hear that Canada they're banning whale and dolphin captivity?
I think it's great.
I think it's great too. It apparently just passed.
I mean, how about Blackfish? One documentary, and it kind of, I think, initiated a movement.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
Well, people didn't know. They needed to see it in a digestible form instead of having to go seek it out and read articles about it and news reports. Instead of that, they get to see it.
There it is.
In a very digestible form. And you go, oh my God, this is chaos. This is horrible.
Yeah.
This is an atrocity. You're taking these incredible animals that are probably some of the most magnificent creatures that evolution has ever created, and you're putting them in a fish tank. You're putting them in a swimming pool.
Yeah.
Their fins go limp.
Yeah, that's
it's crazy.
Well, and actually, if you think about it, the killer whale, I mean, that's the king.
Yeah. There's a crazy video that I just watched yesterday of one killing a beach seal.
Oh.
It injured the seal, and the seal tried to make it over and it literally beached itself, smashed this seal, and there was just blood everywhere. And a bunch of people were standing around watching it, going, "Holy shit!"
Yeah.
And then it flopped its way back into the water and swam off.
Did it eat it?
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Well, that's what I mean. Listen, that's the thing about nature, right? It's kind of brutal, but it's not personal. Like the seal, the whale's not like, that seal gave me kind of a funny look.
Right.
I'm going to go and give it to him. It's like, oh, there's some food. Did you ever see the one when they're on the iceberg and they look, oh, that bugger's still holding on, and they push it again. I mean,
that was
they're
a mother
smart.
teaching its calves how to hunt too.
Smart.
And she was setting it up, like showing, like you can make them slide. Like, watch this. Look, slide. Well, I was listening to my friend Steve Rinella's podcast, and he was talking about the difference in the orcas in the Puget Sound, and that they're local orcas, which are essentially salmon specialists, and they don't eat animals, they don't eat marine mammals, but then there are other ones that travel into the area, and they are marine mammal specialists. So all they eat is like seals and things along those lines, and they have a totally different language.
Totally.
They don't understand each other. They don't interact with each other. And
How's that? Every pod has its own language.
It's crazy.
They put a whale in captivity once, and it was not eating because they didn't know it was a seal eating whale, not a fish eating whale. And so Laird and I used to joke, can you imagine, like, okay, Susie and Billy, we're going to go watch the orca, Shamu, and then the trainer's there like throwing at seal, like that would not work out well. Like, yay, do that trick again.
Yeah, give it a slab of cute little animal.
Yeah, no. So it's they're very complex.
Yeah. Well, if it didn't exist, it would be way more interesting than Bigfoot.
Yeah.
Right? Like everybody's like so into Bigfoot being real. Like,
I don't get Bigfoot. Can you talk to me about that? Like,
Sure.
Do you think what's the concept of Bigfoot? I mean, I know, okay, it's a big hairy guy, but
yeah.
what? I mean, really? Come on, what is it?
Most likely there was interaction between human beings and something called the Gigantopithecus for thousands and thousands of years. It's a giant bipedal hominid that existed in Asia that was between 8 and 10 feet tall. It was real. And it was basically in like the orangutan family. It looks almost orangutan-like, but enormous. And that was a real thing.
Okay.
And they didn't find out about this until like the 1920s. They found a tooth in an apothecary shop in China. And an anthropologist examined this tooth. It was like, where the fuck did you get this? And they took him to the site and they dug up more things and bones and jaw bones. And they determined from the jawbone, I'm sorry if I'm fucking any of this up, scientists, but they determined from the jawbone that they think it was bipedal, that it stood up on 2 legs. And so then they said, well, how big would this thing be? And then in the proportionate.
Yeah, like the femur bone.
Have you ever seen what a real one looks like?
Yeah. I just sometimes when they say like, oh, up in Michigan, I'm like, is it really like, what are they seeing?
Bullshit. Most of it is people seeing shadows in the trees and they want to believe it's Bigfoot. And they're seeing bears that are walking on 2 legs. But if there was a thing, what's really interesting is that's where it would be. Because if it did come across the Bering land bridge, like they believe humans did, if that did happen, the many animals navigated from there to here that way. That's where Alaska and the Pacific Northwest, that would be the natural path. And then if you think about how densely wooded that area is, that would be a natural habitat for something that's hiding from people. The problem is you can't really hide from shit anymore. It's just
I don't think
too
so.
hard.
They'd see it from space, right?
Something would catch you on a trail camera. There's trail cameras that are everywhere. They're 4K. Like, did you see those? A guy and his father got caught poaching a mother bear in her den.
Ew.
It's horrific. It's horrible. And it's not just horrible because they poached this mother bear in their den and left the babies essentially to die, but they were talking about how they're not going to get caught doing it. Like no one's going to tie us to this. And the way they were caught, there was a 4K camera that was right behind them that was observing this whole area where this bear was denned in. They have these trail cameras now that are incredibly accurate. They're it's so high definition and super clear, and the audio's clear. They would catch one of those fucking things. Yeah. If there was something out there, they would see something.
But I think there is something to be said for the tooth fairy and thinking we don't know everything.
Yeah,
like
it's fun.
the magic of stuff unknown and behind. I mean, for me, it doesn't have to be Bigfoot, but I love the idea that we haven't seen everything. We don't know everything. No. And obviously we know that with space and who knows, when dimensions and time and universe, but something mythical is pretty fun.
Well, what's interesting is that there was a bunch of different kinds of humans. That's what's interesting. Right. And they found these bones in Russia that I think they call them the Denisovians. They found a set, this is within the last 10, 15 years. They found a completely different species of humans that lived in Russia. They found those little people on the island of Flores. Right. That was only like 10 years ago. I mean, there's probably dozens more that they just haven't uncovered somewhere. So if there was at one point in time some big giant hominid, it's totally possible. Yeah. I just don't think he would have to eat so much to be alive today.
10 feet, yeah.
To be constantly, it's like a bear.
Yeah.
Like you find bear shit everywhere. Where's the gorilla shit? Where's the Bigfoot shit? Or whatever it is. Is it eating plants? Is it eating animals? What the fuck is it eating?
Right.
It's got to eat a lot.
A lot.
That's a big thing.
I only have a 6-foot-something husband at home, and he eats a lot.
A lot. I bet. All surfing all day. I bet that dude could put it down.
He can put it down. Do you eat a lot?
I eat a lot.
You do?
I eat preposterous amounts of food.
Now, do you eat big each meal, or do you sort of go, okay, dinner, end of day? What's your big meal? Just how are you feeling?
Yeah, it depends. Like sometimes I have giant meals for dinner, but sometimes if I worked out too hard at night, I'll have a giant breakfast.
Right.
If I just do whatever I feel like doing, but I definitely always have intermittent fasting. It's at least 6 days a week. I take 16 hours off. One day I don't give a fuck.
It's amazing how much food we don't really need.
Yeah, it is amazing.
I used to eat way too much and like way too much protein and stuff when I was playing and going through different phases of training. Now, do you go into like autophagy and do all that too?
No.
Oh, okay.
No. You want to explain that to people?
Yeah. Well, it's just one sort of step, just a deeper step when you do a little bit intermittent fasting is if you don't start the digestive process. So if you you can have water and caffeine, you can't have fats and things like that. The theory is that whatever cell, dysfunction you have, you kind of can rinse out kind of 3 times the amount, the process of when you do intermittent fasting. So it can be a really effective way when you're intermittent fasting to say, okay, I'm going to pick this 4-hour window. For most people, it'd probably be between like 3 and 7 or 2 and 6. And I'm going to eat. And then the rest of the time, I'm not going to. So it's very close. It's just sort of one more twist they can put on it. I think it's like ATOPO,
So that's a 20-hour fasted window every day.
Yeah, and I have a friend who was doing it pretty regularly, and he looked different.
Really?
Yeah.
In a good way?
Yeah. No, he did. He shifted his body composition a little bit, and it was interesting. And there's some interesting data. I'm sure Jamie can give you the download on it. Autophagy. It's just sort of like one notch higher. It's not fun, but like for me, it would have to be kind of, I would want to eat between 1 and 5. I could do without it the rest of the time. And you can have, like I said, caffeine and water.
It's incredible what a pull mouth pleasure has. Like my kids bought these Entenmann's cupcakes.
Entenmann's, that's like old school, yeah.
Old school, but they are bullshit. These cupcakes, they're like those chocolate frosted things
with the white on top.
With the little white squiggly, and the inside is a cream filled. God damn, it was delicious. But while I was eating it, I was like, "What the fuck are you eating, man? This is all nonsense. You shouldn't even be touching this."
No, but you can't do that. I think because we pretty strict. Laird's a little more strict than I am. I think if you're going to eat that cupcake, you
enjoy it.
Yeah. I think, even having that small conversation with yourself is a colossal waste of time as you shove it in your mouth and it goes down. It's like, because that's so human, right? Like, it's like, I shouldn't be doing this, but here I go. It's like, why am I doing, why? I shouldn't, it's like, I think it's important to do it and enjoy it. But yeah, that's not food. That's like, I don't know what that is. This thing can live for like 800 years.
The thing is, we had eaten and I was full. But that looks so good. Like if someone had cut a piece of steak and put it in front of me, I'd be like, I'm good.
I'm stuffed.
But I saw that cupcake. I was like, look at that motherfucker.
Don't you think when kids are like, I can't eat anymore. What's for dessert? I have a separate space for that. That doesn't change because we're older. I still have a separate space. It's just, try not to use it so much.
Well, they say that for people that are in like competitive eating competitions too, that like you can still eat fries. Because fries you don't like fries?
No, I just had the vision of the guy shoving it in the water and then the bun and the hot dog and then squeezing it down. Yeah. But that you can eat fries because it's not protein?
No, it's the saltiness and the carbs you could still eat.
You can always eat another carb.
Yeah, like if you ate a steak, right, and that steak was a big 18-ounce ribeye, you ate the whole thing, like, but then you see those fries, like, oh, look at those fries. And you dip them in some ketchup. Oh, you could keep eating. You could eat another 1,000 calories.
Well, that's when you're in that food, trance.
Yes.
You get in those food trance.
I get in those food trances.
Yeah. I mean, I have friends that, like, if you have any, thing out on the counter that's snackish, like you have it for the kids, right? Yep. And you have friends that come to visit and say hi, and they're kind of fidgety, and all of a sudden they're just, eating everything, and you just look at them like, bro, you're in a constant food thing, trance, snack it. Don't have snacky, anything around.
They can't help themselves.
Oh, no, cannot. Yeah, for sure. No, but I find it easier. I don't know if you found it easier. I used to have a really heavy chocolate trip. Heavy, I used to have a chocolate drawer, the whole thing.
Drawer?
No, for real, every kind of chocolate. I'd open it, and it wasn't a thin drawer. It wasn't a silverware with drawer. It was a deep drawer with every kind of chocolate. And I mean, stress. Yeah, bust out the chocolate. Whatever. Right before your time, chocolate. Kid walks in the room. They're saying something. You're like, chocolate. So I had every kind.
Does it work?
It does, but then I stopped eating it as much, and now it's I don't even really want it as much. It's weird. It's kind of a bummer.
I really, really love? Dark chocolate with peanut butter.
Take
some dark chocolate and
just
jam
put
it into some Jiffy.
Or
some Skippy. Some bullshit peanut butter.
Yeah.
I like the crunchy stuff too.
So, because the healthy stuff, somehow the oil and the stuff is separate. You need that stuff that has those unknown chemicals to make it really smooth. You're like, this natural peanut butter, this isn't good. It's not smooth. Look at that. No,
I know you have to with natural peanut butter. You got to get that fucking butter knife in
you
there.
ever try to make a sandwich,
Oh,
school lunch with that? You rip
terrible.
a hole in the bread. You're like,
Yeah, it's annoying.
yeah, no, forget it.
It's either too dry or too oily.
Yeah, it doesn't work.
It's never perfect.
And you can't make a sandwich with it. There's
It's
just
hard.
no way.
You got to stir you got to commit to a 5-minute stir before you ever even think about putting that shit on your bread.
Absolutely. Hey, so I was thinking I wanted to invite you. You could bring whoever you want to come pool train with us.
What's pool training? What do you guys do?
Jamie, can you pull up like pool training or XPT pool training?
XPT. What does that stand for?
This is another thing that we do, but this is like a 12-year-old form of training. We built this pool, and Laird, is always trying to, athletes in their off season, and we were like like 6 of our friends. We built this huge pool, and Laird's like, okay, take some dumbbells and go down there's Kyle. Your
Kyle
guy.
Kingsbury.
Yeah, your big boy.
That's my boy.
And he wears his little suit, the little gold suit. And anyway, this is all the shallow stuff, but there's deep water. That girl didn't get going. They have dumbbells in their crotches. Look at Kyle. This is when he was a little bigger still, yeah? Do we have...
and what is the idea behind...
So there's deep water, like you're 13 feet, you have weights. Ballistic training, no punishment to your joints.
Oh, interesting. So they're doing cleans in the ocean, or in the pool, rather.
Yeah, this is all shallow. There's some deep water stuff, and I'm not sure why that guy is doing a little...
You drop the dumbbell all the way down to the bottom.
You can, so you have drag and stuff like that, and also it's lighter in the water and heavier out, but this is not the stuff... I mean, this is all good. It increases your lung capacity and things like that, but there is a deep water element so you can be ballistic and you can do all this stuff, and you don't pound your joints, and you can get stronger. So we have a lot of athletes that come and train so that they can sort of work on some of these elements of their being more dynamic or what have you. You're in compression. It's pretty cool. And we couple it. So I know you like to do heat and stuff. So we'll do like heat and ice, and then pool and heat and ice and pool and things like that. It's pretty great. And you're tired, but you're not beat up.
George St. Pierre actually did a lot of that in training for his last fight. He did a lot of his work in the pool.
See, here's the deeper stuff.
I see.
So you can and what's cool about this too is that you have to moderate your breath because it's very straightforward. Air, no air, air, no air. And
for people that are just listening to this, we're looking at these guys. It's probably like a 9-foot pool. They have dumbbells in their hands. They drop all the way down to the bottom and then let their knees go to full bend, and then with their butt to their heels, and then jump right back up and pop out of the water, get a deep breath, and then go right back down again. So you're constantly leaping through the water to go to the surface
and
again.
See how the skin ripples? So I actually think it's really attractive when you're a girl too. I just want to tell you that.
Oh, wow, that's crazy.
Is that, think about this. I actually think, so you're in compression, so you've got those benefits, right? And I think your tissue, like your fascia and everything, gets kind of rolled almost in every set.
With that ripple?
I think so.
Effect?
And that they're more shallow, and then there's deeper and things like that. But there's probably about 35 exercises that we've come up with.
Oh, wow.
Laird made us all his crash test dummies. But it kind of makes you feel like $1 million, but you can bust your butt on it.
Right, but you're not getting the pounding.
Well, that's it. I already have a fake knee.
Do you really?
Yeah.
When did you blow it out?
Well, it was an ongoing since my 20s, and then finally at 46, I got it replaced.
Wow.
Yeah.
What is the difference?
Now?
Yeah.
Oh, so much better.
Is it?
I used to sleep with my good leg underneath my knee, trying to open my knee joint because it felt like metal hot metal touching.
Ooh.
And then your foot gets heavy. If you lose a lot of your function. I tried everything, like stem cell and PRP, and you try everything because you don't want to be getting a fake knee.
Right.
And then after a while, I was like, I'm sure there'll be something better in 10 years, but right now, let's just do it.
Wow.
So we went in the same day. Laird got his hip done the same day, and I got my knee done.
How did Laird injure his hip?
Repetitive trauma. I mean, Laird is now 55. He was 52 when he got his hip, and he's he's tough on his body. I mean,
Yeah.
he's tough on his body. And then if you're like doing isometric loading when the foiling, that one hip's taking a hit, it's the back leg, it's, it's a lot of load.
It's amazing though that he's gotten back to surfing at the same level.
He's very unique. He says that everything he does, like his relationships, what he reads, what he eats, what he spends time doing is all to enhance him to perform. And a ton of people like this, his ability to deal with discomfort. He has a very good relationship with discomfort. So his training and stuff, it's,
A lot of those guys wind up injuring themselves because of that, though, that mental toughness.
But he's really smart. He's not, you're not his age and foolhardy. He's not like, let me show you what I can do. He's a guy who can call it. He's a guy who can go, yeah, no, it's not a good idea.
So when they do the hip, they have to put that rod through the center of the hip and then put the new joint on the outside?
It's all, he stayed awake.
Wow.
They did a local and he left the hospital at 3:00 that day.
Wow.
It's carpentry. They whack out the
crazy.
joint.
That's
the
so
doctor's
crazy.
huge. It's not fine surgery.
Oof.
It's like carpentry. And he stayed awake because the guy's like, okay, you can handle it. The noise or whatever. Yeah. Laird's like, so he, same time. And then he was gone, out of the hospital.
Wow. And how long did it take to rehabilitate?
Not long. Once the incision closed, he could go out in the water. So what's that, 10 days? Hips are pretty cool.
That's crazy that they can do that now. I had a buddy who did that, Graham Hancock. He did that 6 weeks later. He was here. And he told me after he was walking around, I was saying hi to him. He said, I had my hip replaced. I go, when? He goes, 6 weeks ago.
Yeah.
What the fuck are you talking about? You're just walking?
You just don't want to play golf. You walk out of the hospital that
golf's
day.
a bad thing?
Well, let's say
torque?
if you were loading your hip that you load into, you might want to not do that right away. Sounds weird, but
that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, like you'd put weird torque on it.
Yeah.
I know guys have gotten back to jiu-jitsu with bad hips.
Oh, yeah.
Back to rolling and training again.
It's, what they basically tell you is you don't want to do anything you wouldn't want to do with your real joint. Like the guy's like, so if you ever got into a car accident, you wouldn't want your knees to go back and in towards your hip. It's like, okay, well, I don't think I'd want that to happen with my natural hip. So I think they're pretty good.
Is it significantly weaker?
No, not at all.
Not at all? So
No.
he can do basically everything?
He can do everything.
Wow. That's crazy.
And he had a pretty wicked limp. The two of us were limping around for like 2 years. It was really cool. People are like, hey, you guys are those like athletes, right? That couple. And we're like hobbling around. We're like, yeah, stay right there. We'll be right there. It was just like brutal. Our kids are like, what are you going to do? Like, I'm just going to run away, like I'll run away. Stop it right there,
What can you do now with your knee? Can you do all the things that you used to be able to do? Can you run?
Yeah, it would be a bummer for jiu-jitsu guys because kneeling is kind of not the best. Like if you said, I'll give you $1 million cash right now, child's pose, I'd be like, ugh, that's tough.
Really?
Yeah, that's tough.
What part hurts?
I think for me, it's also part of my biomechanics that the tissue on my quads is like probably like beef jerky from jumping all those years. So that's something I'm always working on. So maybe a more flexible person going in would have more mobility in that bent position, but it just, you get a hard finish on it, on the joint. But I think it's pretty amazing what you can do. Like it's pretty far out.
Can you sidestep and stuff like that?
Oh yeah, I could play volleyball if I wanted to.
Wow.
Yeah, you can jump and land and be hard on it and
Really?
do plyos and stuff. Yeah.
So they basically say just do stuff that you would do normally with your knee.
Yeah, yes, be intelligent. Like you probably wouldn't want to go, I'm an ultra marathoner now.
Right.
Because you might wear your joint out in like 2 years.
Right.
But I think if you said, I really like to run, but I'll go on the grass or the sand barefoot, probably better. Stuff like that. But that's what you want to do again anyway.
Yeah.
Running's pretty tough on you.
Yeah, and it's not just tough on your knees. It's tough on your back. It's tough on everything. You're running on a hard surface.
7 times your body weight, right? Like each step.
Yeah.
Unless you're built, like when you see those people that are built to run.
Yeah.
It's perfect. Yeah. So that was sort of, I think that's what's interesting about being, when people go, I'm an athlete. And then it's like, and some days I'm sure you feel this way. It's like, I feel so unathletic or so banged up or, like I have friends that came into training late and everything, all their joints are like all perfect and, they work perfectly. And sometimes I've felt a little bit beat up. Laird's been beat up a lot, but he kind of trains his way out of it big time.
Now, when you guys are on Kauai, is there a lot of resources in terms of like places to train or physical therapists or any of that kind of stuff?
No, I think the other islands like Oahu and Maui, they would certainly have it. I actually, this group that owns this business there let me use a warehouse, and I taught a class 3 days a week for free, $1. So they were covered under my insurance because we have so little training. Like we have a gym and stuff, but like the community on the north didn't really. So I started doing that like 3 days a week to get people. There was like 100 of us at the same time.
Cool.
It was really cool. But because they don't have really great facilities.
What a weird place to live.
Is it?
It's kind of badass.
But don't you think, like, when I go to New York City with Laird, he looks there and he looks at the buildings and he's like, why do people do this to themselves? Like, we've gotten twisted around. Like, you're like, Kauai, what a weird place to live.
Right.
But in a way, it's probably closer to how we're meant to live.
Oh, for sure.
Stacked up on top of each other. But having said that, compared to the other parts of the world, I mean, and it's remote. Like, you're out there. I think besides Easter Island, it's like the most remote place in the world.
Wow.
Yeah.
Really? That's interesting. But it makes sense.
Yeah. It's far. I mean, they navigated there, and they said that the sea level was lower so that they could see more land when the Polynesians sailed there. But it's a pretty interesting contrast to living like in Malibu, let's say. But then in a way not, because you're surrounded by nature.
Right. Yeah, I think it's probably a far more healthy way to live. I just know that a lot of people do get that island fever and they can't take it. They want to get the fuck off.
Yeah, and like when you have a family, like when our kids were young, it's like you're doing the same thing. You're taking them places, you're making dinners, you're making lunches. So in a way, you're just doing sort of everyday things in a really pretty place. And also you probably live a little simpler.
Yeah, it's got to be better for you in terms of like the amount of stress that you experience, and the beauty of nature is very calming and soothing and probably therapeutic and beneficial. Yeah,
but it's that reminder. I mean, this has been the thing for me. It's like you could have all that at your access, but if you haven't dealt with yourself, or if you feel miserable, it sort of doesn't really matter. And I think that kind of place points it out really quick. Where when you live in a busy place, you can distract yourself from yourself, and you can be like, oh, there's traffic and I have stuff to do and I'm busy. I'm a busy person. I'm at an office. I do all this stuff. And when you're there, you can't blame really the traffic. You sort of have to go, oh, that's right. So it's an interesting thing of when we talk about like health or beautiful places and things like that, it still always comes back to yourself. And like, have I made myself happy? Am I doing things that make me feel good? Things like that. So I think what's really great about that place is that gets clear real quick.
Do you guys have real internet out there?
Totally.
Like legit internet?
I mean, we had dial-up till about 18 months ago.
For real?
No.
But I mean, do you have high-speed internet? It's like it is in America?
I think we're like 5Ging it or whatever.
What?
They've got that blanket over us there. What is it, the mind control 5G net or whatever?
Everybody's worried about that.
I know.
That's the latest
I have a friend
conspiracy theory.
Freaking out about it.
5G. Well, we did read something
think,
about they do have the ability. It does have an effect on human brains, right?
Well, but that's what I mean. It's like pretty serious.
We're going to do ourselves in one day with innovation. We're going to keep going.
Absolutely.
Until one day we've fucked ourselves sideways.
I think that's the way that it goes, right? Like you get so smart that you de-evolve. You're like, check when I was a kid, we had a Mad magazine, and I'll never forget it. I was like 11 years old, and there was a sketch of this explosion in space. And it was like two aliens talking, and they were looking at this explosion, millions of miles away, and they go, oh, they said smart beings lived there. Pretty much. I mean, I think that in a way that we're probably, I mean, we do a lot with water and air and things like that, but it is interesting to see. I'm always fascinated that people will do stuff for money. Like guys running companies, and they go, well, it's okay about the pollution or the byproduct. And you go, yeah, but your kids or your grandkids are going to like money's not going to protect you from if the climate goes bizarre.
Yeah, but they feel like someone else is going to fix that.
They do?
I just got to get this money.
You think?
Got to get that money. Yeah, I think it's just compartmentalization. They just don't think about also they're a part of a corporation.
Right. And everybody just does their little task. Right.
Yeah,
but it does trip me out. Like
Should.
you go, like, you know, we say the rain falls on everyone's house. Like it's coming for everybody, no matter how much cheese you have.
Well, it's also the effect that we've had on it has been over this window of 100 years. It's not that long. And it's massive effect. I mean, unbelievably massive effect on the environment. It's just a short window of time in terms of, you know, when I'm sure you saw Jiro Dreams of Sushi. Did you see that?
Yeah, of course.
It was great, right?
Yeah.
But when they're sitting around talking about the fish markets back in the day, we'd get so much more tuna. Like one day,
it's fished out.
This is when you're alive, man. So when this guy's during his lifetime, it went from abundance of tuna to being almost fished out.
Yeah.
And they're not slowing down. Sushi's everywhere. It's like
I know what we've done in 30 years is pretty far out.
It's crazy.
I know
it's crazy.
I know it's funny because my kids. I don't know if you see this with your kids. It's like I think they're pretty aware of it, and they. I think that they go flip and flop between feeling like the adults are poorly behaved and they're left with a pile of, you know, of our bad decisions. And also like my one daughter's like, do you think it'd be okay to be like a militant environmentalist? You know, and she's like 6 feet tall. And I'm like, that'd be fantastic. You know, like Sea Shepherd on steroids, like, you know,
right.
You know. So I think it's going to be interesting to see, you know, with the next group, because they're obviously really different. Like they don't want big giant houses and all that stuff that, you know, sort of my generation and your generation thought that.
So you think the new generation is different in their values and what they think is important?
Right? They say that they give more, they volunteer more. I think the tricky thing for them is going to be connection and being able to be connected and being able to have real conversation and, you know, even be able to concentrate long enough to be with somebody.
Because of devices?
Yeah. I mean, I think it's far. Could you imagine right now if you were 20?
No.
And being like dating and swiping and trying to pay attention and.
Or even 10. You know, my daughter's one of the few girls in her class that doesn't have a cell phone.
What's the age that do they get them? Like
they've had them since they were like 7.
No, I mean,
my kids.
Like, what's the rule in your house?
There's a debate right now. We're trying to figure it out.
Well, okay, so you have a 10-year-old going to be 11.
Yeah, I think that they say there's like a movement, wait till 8th. Mm-hmm. Yeah, you heard that?
Yeah, like 10 kids in the class. All the parents agree, so they're not the only person in the class that doesn't have it.
But it's not that way with my daughter's kids, the kids in her class. Most of them have phones. Most parents just give the kid a phone.
Yeah.
And it's just, there's have you read any of Jonathan Haidt's stuff,
yeah.
The Coddling of the American Mind?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. And that is just so disturbing when you see the amount of, especially young girls that are growing up depressed, cutting themselves, self-harm.
What's that, like 400%, he said? Like from 10 to 14 or...
Something crazy like that.
Like something insane.
Massive spike that directly coincides with the invention of smartphones and social media.
Yeah, the slot machine.
Yeah, it's this thing where people are just trying to get likes and trying to leverage their, you know, their social status and try to pretend that they're living in a perfect world to everybody around them, and everyone else is doing it. And people look at other people's lives being perfect and they reflect upon their own. They get depressed. There's just so many factors that kids didn't have to deal with just a decade or so ago. It's really,
and it's
really
never
new.
Off, right?
Nope.
Like at least if I had a hard time at school, I could go home and have a reprieve from it at least overnight. I think for me, that's been a thing with my kids is like, especially daughters. I do think, I understand the gaming is different for boys and pornography and things like that, and that whole trip of rewiring their brain. But I think with girls, it's like, how do you get them to hear their own voice? I don't know how they're going to get to a place where because it's like this weird mishmash of like, me too, and then never before have people objectified themselves more because they get that positive affirmation. Like I always say, if I put out really smart ideas, if I'm a young woman, I have 1,000 followers. Every shot is of my butt. I have 10 million followers. So we have this mixed message going on, which is like, I'm angry, me too, treat me equal, simultaneously to I'm going to objectify myself in the most hardcore way more than in any time in history.
With spectacular results.
And it's really, for me as a female who understands both those sides a little bit, it kind of trips me out. Because I don't think like those girls, playing that card and no violence should be done to you. And I agree with all of that, and no is no and all of that. But at a certain point, like you've had Jordan Peterson on here many times, it's like biological signaling. It's like, like play a side at least. And also that one side is super short lived. That's what I try to tell my girls. I'm like, yo, listen, if you're pretty girls, it's great. But if that's the card you're playing, your card's done. Like by the time you're 30, 35, it's done. It's over. And, unless you're like 40 and you marry a 7-year-old. I don't know.
Or
whatever.
Get into MILF porn.
Is that such a thing?
Yeah.
Yeah, but even that, it's like they got to put a filter on it and like all that stuff. I mean, come on. I mean, you know what I mean? It's at a certain point, how do you get these girls to go, hey, stand up for yourself, be strong, but like, what are you doing? But
look at all these people that are not doing that are benefiting.
I know, but it's getting them to understand. How do you get a 13-year-old to talk about the long game?
Right.
I mean, everything's immediate. But for me, it's like, it's culturally, I feel like I'm this weird mix of like I came through at the most modern time. Like women went to school and on scholarships, and like there was no thought to being like strong. Not really. Mm-hmm. And but then weirdly, it's like I feel so kind of old fashioned when I see kind of this next thing. Cause I'm like, well, strong for me was something else. Strong was like, you were really physically strong, trying to have a strong mind, strong basis of a person. And then, then there was this other side, like your femininity, your sexuality, all this other stuff. And now it's like, I don't know. It's very interesting.
Well, there's certainly a bunch of different kinds of people, right? And there's going to be people that gravitate towards objectifying themselves. And there's going to be people that gravitate in this day and age towards, you see a lot of people's pages are just filled with motivational quotes and inspirational things and, and stories about people that they meet and photos. And you get a lot of people that are attracted to that kind of stuff too. It's just, you're not going to get the immediate gratification of a picture of your ass. That picture of your ass that gets 100,000 likes, you're like, wow, look at all those likes.
Yeah.
And then, it's just a different vibe. And you have to decide, what are you after? Are you after quantity or quality? You're after, you're trying to accurately express how you feel and work it out through communicating with people and figure out how they react to what you're saying and how you feel about how other people say similar things and how it does good things for you and you want to do good things for them. Or do you just want to have
my butt?
Just a piece of dental floss up the crack of your ass.
Yeah,
sticking it in front of the camera. There's,
No, and I get that. Like I get also, like I always say, when you're a young woman, you sort of get this new car, and you're like, well, what happens? Like, what if I put my foot on the gas? Like you're sort of checking it all out. Like, ooh, they respond like this if I do that. Like that's completely natural. Mm-hmm. But then at a certain point, I don't know that the input is like, like who do you want to be? And not based on what everyone thinks about you, like what actually turns you on and makes you feel excited and stoked, because, it's great that you have a nice butt, but there's a lot of nice butts. And in the end, that's not probably going to bring you that other feeling.
The problem is that there's a thrill to positive reactions.
Absolutely.
And that thrill is undeniable.
I would like it. I'm just too old.
and when people get that thrill, and then you tell them, hey, that thrill's bad for you, you're like, fuck off, mom.
No, I mean a bolt on to that message. How about that? Like, get the thrill, but simultaneously to doing the thrill, maybe have some other thoughts about where you like to continue to journey to.
Yeah. But I think when you tell that to a 13-year-old, they hear it eventually.
Yeah.
I think in the beginning, they're like, yeah. I got this. Yeah. And then later when it all goes sideways, like, God damn, I should have listened to mom.
Yeah. I think you just got to be it too, and have some like cool friends that hang around you, because if you're the parent, it's like, okay, you're going to penetrate so much, but if you've got some like, in Hawaii, they call them aunties. If you got some badass chicks around you and your daughters are looking, they see.
Right.
They see. But what if you don't have access to that? I have a lot of pretty strong, cool women around me, but not that it concerns me. I don't want to say that. It's just, how do you help the next group, try to be a good example, love on them, but get them to teach them to love on themselves.
Right.
That's all. And I don't mean with eyelash extensions and like perfect things. I mean like love on yourself.
Yeah.
Well,
that's the other thing too. There's a distortion of natural beauty, and to make it so that everything has to be artificial. The color of your lips, the color of your eyeshadow, fake lashes, everything is just this. That doesn't look better. It just looks different.
Do you think I'm always fascinated what men think? Like, do they even does it even register? Do they know what's going on?
In what way?
Well, I guess we'd have to ask men of that generation if, let's say they had two groups of women and one that was like perfectly coiffed with the lip injection.
I love that word, coiffed. It's one of my favorite words.
Is it?
Yeah.
I like that I'm talking about like eyelash extensions with Joe, but like just sort of really done, like ready for the club, let's just say. And then just like a girl like, hi, I'm a sweaty runner and now I'm going to go to the office and put my hair up in a ponytail. I don't know, whatever. If guys, if they even, can they tell the difference?
Yeah, for sure.
Can.
Yeah. I mean, it's all what you're into.
What you're into.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Some guys just like them soft and made up. Some guys like them sweaty and muscular.
Yeah.
It's different.
No, and I get all that. I love that. I just mean, again, it's hardcore signaling, and I guess that's what it is. Maybe it's the new biology.
Well, it's also that there's never been a time, like I did a bit on one of my Netflix specials where about this girl who's got just pictures of her ass. She had like 9 million followers on Instagram. I'm like, there's never been a person like this before. This is a new kind of person. Like, fuck looking at these frogs in the Amazon that no one's going to see. There's a new kind of person.
Yeah,
this girl just has pictures of her butt, and she's got millions of people staring at her all day long, and every day is just new pictures of her butt.
It's a great point. I always am intrigued how they decide, like, oh, we're going to do the butt on the beach. Now let's do the butt next to the puppy. It's like, I'm so confused how they keep getting ideas. I can't even get ideas for different things. And it's like, I know we'll do butt with the cotton candy. It's like, okay, I don't know. I'm always intrigued by that.
I think it becomes an obsession. I mean, I think you have to stay fresh with new butt ideas.
Is that it? Or do you have like a butt editor?
Butt envelope.
Do you get the butt editor? So what do you do? Hey, what's going on? The head butt editor here at butt.com. I don't know.
But if you have a girl who has, let's say some of these girls have millions and millions of followers and they're making millions of dollars.
I know they're crushing it.
Yeah.
Maybe they're actually the smartest people in the room and I haven't caught on yet.
It's certainly an easy path to finances.
I mean, know, right?
If you have a great ass and you like working out anyway and you just want to take pictures of it and all of a sudden you have 25 million followers, like, damn.
But this goes also, okay.
What should she do? Quit that job?
No, definitely not. Because then when is she going to say, well, I'll do the right thing and work at the library? I'm not suggesting that. It's just, I mean, if it was my kid, I'd be like, sweetie, you might want to weigh out the economics on this.
Right.
But I think you said something really important. It's a whole new thing.
Yeah.
And I think, however, it's sort of like the communication you're always having, which is, well, what is success? And for me, that's all. It's like getting people, encouraging them, whatever that is, whatever that looks like. You said this, like, oh, you'd do the show whether anyone was listening or not, most likely, right?
Probably.
I mean, until you couldn't afford it anymore, let's just say. But obviously,
I would do it just to have the conversations. I would do it.
Right.
Maybe I wouldn't do it as much, but I would definitely do it.
Right.
If someone said, hey, every few months a physicist will come in here and sit down with you for 3 hours, I'd be like, yeah, let's do it. That's what I want to do.
Yeah, well, you're bringing information to you and learning to you.
Yeah.
So for you, part of your definition, that's success.
Yeah.
And so I guess that is the conversation, because we always have this obvious thing of like success is, it either is notoriety, it's power, it's money, and then we forget those other communications about like the pursuit of something that really genuinely turns you on.
Well, I think people get short-sighted, and you definitely can get success where you just have money and you just have objects and you have notoriety, and people will view it as success.
Right.
But if you're not doing what you love, it's not pure success. It's a different kind of success. Like if you really find something that you enjoy doing and then you take that, like Laird has with surfing, or many people have with their passions, and then you become successful through that. It's a different existence because it's a pure existence. Like when I do stand-up comedy, or if I do commentary for the UFC, it's a pure enthusiasm.
Yeah.
It's genuine.
That comes across.
I don't have to fake it. I enjoy doing it. That's, to me, I know everybody can't do that.
No.
Or everybody feels like they can't do that, or they haven't figured out a way to do that yet.
Right.
But if there's a thing that you can do, like maybe I would have made more money if I went into the stock market. Maybe I would have made more money if I was a banker. Maybe. I don't know.
Right.
But I definitely wouldn't be as happy. There's no way. If I'm the same person I am now and I was in a fucking office all day making 100 times as much money, I'd be miserable.
Right. And I think that, I guess for me, that's maybe when I see the thing with the girls and, like I said, feeling sensitive to it because I have daughters, or just young people in general, it's that conversation of like, just keeping that definition of success open. And by the way, this other path, that taking it, like following your own instincts or desires or passions, there's elements to that are harder. For sure. It's more unknown. You can feel insecure. Like, is this the right thing to do?
Sure.
I mean, in our house, we've gone through that 50 different times. It's like, I'm going to do this because I really want to. I don't know what's going to happen.
Right.
And I don't know if it's going to be successful. I might even lose money. Who knows? But that once you start to do it, or you do it once or twice, then you go, oh, but it's so worth trying.
If you can pull it off. That's the thing that, like, if everything worth doing is hard to do.
Everything. But by the way, we've pursued 10 businesses, and like one is really thriving, 2 are doing well, and the rest, like, we ate it.
Yeah.
We ate it in cash. We ate it in time. We did. So I think that's the other thing that's important is like, hey, it's like sports. How many times, do you lose too? You lose a lot in order to win. And I think that's something that for me, like with my girls, it's like, hey, just try to work really hard and hear your own voice and follow that if you can. And it is scary. I think it's scary.
Well, you're also a person who's had that opinion reinforced through vigorous work over the years. I mean, you are a super successful competitive athlete, which is one of the most difficult things for a person to do, to like force your body to perform better than everybody else's, figure a way to win, figure a way to get points scored, figure a way where all these other people who are also high level athletes are trying to stop you from doing it, figure out a way to succeed. And you're going to fucking fail. There's no way around it. You're going to have ups and downs, but you're going to understand the value of pursuit, of dedication and discipline. And your kids are going to see that. Like, they must know their mom is a badass.
No, I don't know.
They have to kind of understand who you are.
Yes and no. I think it's interesting because then, like how sons can push against dads and a dad's identities, right?
Sure.
There's times, not my youngest and less my oldest, but my middle went through a phase where it was like, she was almost like, I'm going to knock her off her
high horse?
No, like
beat your records.
My real estate that was my real estate, and it's like, and she's a big, strong kid, but then I think she realized like, oh no, this is more about me finding my own real estate. Like my mom did that because that was what my mom had to do and what was good at, and that was my thing. And but there was a minute that I think. Listen, no kid looks at their parent that they actually live with, by the way, and is like, yeah, they're cool. There's just no kid. I mean, like, if I deserted them and called like 4 times a year, they'd be like, it's my mom. She's on the phone.
Right.
And she's in an exotic country. They're like, yo, get me some water. I'm going to bed. Like, it's like, it's no different in any house. And by the way, I have this new thing I'm doing right now with my youngest daughter because she can get me like nobody's business. Like Laird always jokes, he goes, you two are not allowed to drive in the car together anymore. Like we come home from one ride from school and I'm on the mats, right? This kid is like, because we're very similar. And she just works me. And then
does she work you when it's just you and her alone? Or with the other kids?
Oh, wow. No, especially. She's no dummy. This kid is so smart. We always joke, I'm like, Brody will run something. I just want her to have friends. Hopefully, that she's pretty radical. And she always gives you this look too while she's carving you up that's like a slight smirk on her face. No. And I'm like, I'm going to kill this kid, And so, and then you think I'm I've been around. I'm trying to be evolved, and I don't think I'm having a, insulin spike. Like, I should be balanced and calm. I think I meditated this morning, and I'm like 4 seconds, and I'm like, like on tilt. It's like,
They know how to push your buttons, and it becomes a little sport for them.
Oh
too.
yeah. So now, okay. So this is the best. So I go, okay. Laird was telling me a story years ago. He went down a river went down the rapid and got pinned against a rock. Okay. And it was breaking on his back. And he said he was pushing on the rock and pushing, couldn't get off. Okay. And he said he had this image of like a skeleton, like on the rock, like with the water just pounding on it, with like the clothes all messed up. And he said he moved his foot, it wiggled his foot, and his whole body slipped out.
Oh, wow.
And so I said, when I see my youngest daughter, I'm going to wiggle my foot. Because I keep pushing and prodding, and she's just coming. She's a hydraulic. Like, it's not stopping. It's not ceasing. Like, she's younger than me. She has more energy. She's faster. I mean, And so I go, I'm just going to wiggle my foot. Like, literally to the point where even if I need the physical cue, like if she's standing there doing some of her weird bullshit, I'll just be like, move my foot just to give him a trigger. Like, I've got to trigger myself. Right. I'm a parent. I'm like against the ropes like everybody else. And so... And I have a partner who supports me, and sometimes he looks at me like, "Whew, not that strong of a game, Gab." And so, we'll get into it, and I'll go to pick her up. And my whole thing is when I talk to my kids in the morning, like first thing I always say, "Hey, good morning." Like I try really hard to be the adult and to be the parent, right? Like that's what I really want to do. Like I really want to show up as the adult. And flawed be it, I still be like, you know what? At least she's acting like an adult. That woman over there, get me water. And so she'll get in the car, and I'll be like, "Hi, honey, how was your day at school?" I try even the fake nice tone and everything. Right. Yeah, I don't really, listen, I spent almost 7 hours there. I really don't want to talk about school. It's like a colossal waste of time.
How old is she?
11. She's like, and then she says to me yesterday, I'm not exaggerating. She goes, and if you, listen, no offense, I'm sorry, Mom, I'm not trying to be rude. If you can't tell, I don't like to talk that much. It seems like a waste of time.
Talking is a waste of time.
That's what she says. She's very self-contained. I'm thinking, true that, but okay. So then I'm like, all right, what another strategy? So I go, oh, that's cool. I can be self-contained. Like, I'm cool. I don't need to be like, oh, sweetie, I don't care. No problem. I just click over a little bit into my mail. Like, okay, if I can I'm going to drive this car, and maybe I'm going to drive a little faster, and like, let's go. And within 3 minutes, somehow, all the things I said I wasn't going to get lured into, nothing, I'm going to wiggle my foot, all this like philosophical stuff. I've been reading books. She gets me. And she's like 95 pounds. And she gets me. She's my only kid that gets me like this. And it's literally like if you went into a restaurant and you said, okay, I'm not going to order the lasagna and the hamburger and the double fries with the chili sauce. And you walk in and you go, I'll take the lasagna, the hamburger, and it's like the one thing I said I wasn't going to do. And she gets me every time. So that's something I'm always really trying to figure out, and also like back away from. This lady, actually, you should have her on your show. Have you ever heard of Byron Katie?
No.
You got to get her, Jamie. You got to get her. She taught me a lot of stuff, but it's basically like full. And men do this better generally, and yes, there are women that do it as well as men. I'm not getting into all that, but it's like surrendering. Like maybe my kid's going to grow up, and they're going to be completely different than what I thought or what they would be or my expectations. And that's actually probably closer to the real thing. So I can be going through sports. I was like, man, volleyball is way easier than this. It is. It's just it's because it's straightforward.
Right.
Take the ball, hit the line.
Yeah.
Take the ball and hit the other line. Oh, okay. No, did you complete that? No, I didn't hit the line. Okay, hit the line.
Is your 11-year-old involved in sports?
Oh, yeah. The worst sport ever.
What sport?
Horses.
Oh, Christ.
It's like beauty pageants on big animals. It's the worst. Parents don't think it's cute to take 6-year-olds and think, oh, it's so sweet. We'll get them. Well, they'll ride horses because then they fall in love with horses. And then they want better horses. And then they want pretty the horse pants and then the boots. And
my buddy's daughter's deep in the horse
It'll kill
horse
you.
Game.
I have to say to her, I'm sorry you were not born to billionaires. I'm really so sorry for you. It's pretty heavy. My middle daughter is into tennis, and she's pursuing tennis. And I'm trying to figure out how to manipulate my young one away from horses. And she'll say to me, I know you think it's a phase, and it's not.
Whoa, it's going to make it a not phase.
And that's why I'm like, no, do whatever you want, but you have to use your own body at least a couple days a week. I go, because you're using the body of the horse. And by the way, doesn't it frustrate you? I even tried this. I can't believe I'm admitting this. I mean, I thought you guys loved the animals. You know, like you really loved horses. And what you're doing to them is not good for the horses.
Whoa.
They land on the same foot. And she's like, they jump in nature. I go, they don't, not with 100 pounds on their back, they don't. And they don't land on the same leg. Like I've tried that. I can't do that anymore. That's not fair. And then,
at least you admit it was a strategy.
I totally. And then the other thing I've tried is, doesn't it irritate you if you were on a horse and you were more talented as an athlete, or you had trained harder, but your horse wasn't as good, so you couldn't win?
Dun, dun, dun.
And she just looks at me like, I'm going to ride this out. She doesn't care. Nothing impacts her. Because that's what frustrates me. Imagine if it was like, I had a better gi than you, so I could kick your ass in, jiu-jitsu, because my gi was more expensive. You'd be like, well, wait a second. I trained twice as hard as you. I've been doing it longer. And maybe I'm just better than you. Nope. My gi's more expensive.
So if you have a shitty horse, there's nothing you can do about it.
And the judges know.
They know.
They know.
So, yeah, I'd never get into that.
And I don't come from that. I barely come from, like, if I didn't hit a white ball, I wasn't even going to university. Never mind, like, this whole horse world thing.
Horse world thing.
I found myself, I went to a show once, and I was like saying good morning to all the groomsmen. Like, good morning, sir. Good afternoon. And like giving stink eye to all the ladies, I was like, yeah, this is an upside down
Horse
universe.
ladies are a different thing.
Yeah, I really, this is one of I lose sleep over this, Joe.
Really?
Yeah, I do.
It's a lot of money.
That's not the part. I mean, I lose sleep over that too, because I'm like, Laird's going to kill me. But because then the flip side of it is I got a kid who's into something. She'll go to the barn. If you let her 7-8 hours, she'll work with the horses, lunge them, do all this stuff. So then you're like, okay, well, she's into something. This is not a kid who will sit around and not do anything. But I guess for me, it's it's a money sport. It's like that weird bubble, thing.
Yeah.
I mean, so that part was like, I was like, oh God, how did we get here?
Yeah. Yeah, that's what my friend is dealing with his daughter.
How old is his daughter?
She's 10.
Oh, is he in deep already?
Yeah.
Did he lease a horse?
Yeah. Yeah, they got a horse.
They bought a horse?
No, they leased a horse.
Okay, yeah.
Which is, I didn't know you could lease a horse.
And there's horse brokers. There's a whole thing of
Jesus
that. It's
Christ.
a shystery whole trip.
It's super expensive to lease a horse too, right? I think it's like $40,000 a month or something crazy like that.
Oh, no, that's like, well, then you've got a really fancy horse. But it's expensive. And
maybe I made that number up.
Yeah, you did. And then that's like Bill Gates' daughter's horse or something.
It might be.
But then it's like, I don't know. For me, but again, as a parent, these are one more of my lessons. Like, I'm not her and she's not me. And
right.
As much as I used to think I was so in charge of so many things, I think being in a long relationship, I've been with Laird almost 24 years. It's like, you start to learn like, oh, okay, I'm not, I can impact you, I can influence you, I can support you, I can love you, I could try to inspire you, but I'm not here to, it's like even as a parent, like I'm not here to control anyone. Right. And that's a hard thing, because when you get a little baby, you're in charge. That's what you needed to be. Mm-hmm. And then all of a sudden it's like, oh yeah, no. And that shift is, I wish people need to talk more about like the shift of, because we're not objective, and the tools that you need. You got to keep adding tools, and it's very humbling.
Do you find it easier to do on Kauai or in California? Is it any different?
Well, it depends, right? So if I have my middle daughter who's a teenager, not on Kauai, she looks 18 or 19, and there's not a lot to do. And so that's tricky there. Here, like she basically lives at a tennis house, and she's homeschooled, and she does 5 to 7 hours of tennis. Her choice as of in the last couple of months. So it's easier because there's just more productive things to do. What I like is when they're little, Kauai's great because it's so simple. The life is simple. So what kids are thinking about is like playing and being in nature and like developing also a toughness to them that maybe like city kids have it different, you know, because like they're barefoot and they're like climbing trees and they're throwing rocks at each other and it's just like a little more rough and tumble. So when they're little, Kauai is certainly easier. And then as they get older, that's what where we're sort of at now. It's like you got to adapt and put these kids, give them a launching pad, if you will, because the problem is like, and I went through this growing up in an island. It's like you don't know all that's out there to dream to do. And it's, even if it's, you know, everything in life, it's so true about like being like the alchemist. Like I even see it with Laird. It's like he went out into the world, he's done all this stuff. And there's certain things we're doing in projects right back onto Kauai. And so there's always going to be that element probably of I went and I did all these things. I expressed myself all these ways. And then there's some basic parts about where I exactly started that are still really important to me. But I think it's important for kids to see like, it doesn't matter where you're from or how you grew up. Like certainly Laird and I both the same way. It's like you really could try to do anything and pursue that if it's in you, if it's genuinely in you and calling you. And I want that for my kids. And I don't care what that is. But just that they have something that they get up each day and they're like, yo, I'm turned on. Yeah,
that really is what people need. They really need something that they love doing.
That's it. And I think that's when I was talking about success is sometimes we have all this, you know, kind of bells and whistles and attention around getting attention. And I think people don't realize that getting attention, I mean, you know this for yourself. It's like, yeah, it's great, but what is it really? And when you close the doors and you're hanging with your people that you're close to, it's like, you know, what's making you excited for real and who loves you for real in that way of like, it's great if people appreciate your work. That always feels good. But if you're doing it for your real reasons, then I already think that is a real success. And we spend a lot of time working. So why not have something that we're fired up on? And that's the thing, because it's like, you know, you spend a long time of your life working. What do you want to do?
Yeah, and guiding a child into that direction, of trying to set them up in a way that they view their life as kind of a project. And the most enjoyment you're going to get is find a thing that excites you. Find a thing that you really get inspired by. Something that, whatever the fuck it is, it's going to be different for you than it is for me. You got to find out what that thing is, but it's all the same thing. Once you find out what that thing is, and that thing genuinely gels with your personality and your likes and your passion, just run with it. You can do it.
Yeah.
You can run with it.
And it changes too. I think that's the other thing is also we get to find like, okay, you were doing this one job and then it's like, okay, but that job is over. Like it's like being an athlete or competing competitive athlete on an organized platform that has a day and a time. And then when that's over, do you want to look back and keep talking about that, or do you want to look and see who you are now and who you'd like to be? And I think that that's always kind of an important thing to teach people, especially people that have, well, I'm a comedian. I was a professional athlete. It's like, okay, that's cool. I had some guy come up to me once and say, hey, I was at the golf course and one of my kids were hitting golf balls and he goes, weren't you that volleyball player, Gabby? And I was like, well, no, I'm still Gabby. But one of the things I've done is play volleyball. And I think that actually, if we can get to that, that's even better. It's like, who am I? And then off of this as far as like it, whether you're older or younger or in one part of your career or not, it's like, you still can always be the essence of yourself. And then it's like, oh, and right now I'm doing this and that. And I was, but I'm not for all time just a volleyball player.
Fighters have a huge problem with that. They identify as being fighters so much that once they retire, they almost all of them, except for a small percentage, almost all of them come back because they miss it so much. Yeah. They miss the excitement and the thrill, and they don't know who they are without that pursuit. The pursuit is the next fight. The pursuit is training camp, getting ready. And when they don't have that for a long time, it just starts really chipping away at them.
Well, and I think too, the amount of focus it takes to be really good at that kind of stuff, or to run a company or anything, it makes sense why it's so hard to try to diversify while you're doing that. It is really hard, but I think it's important to quietly keep that voice inside your head going, yeah, but who are you?
Right.
Beyond that expression of yourself. Who are you? How do you feel about things? And also the opportunity like to kind of grow up. You know, there's so many opportunities like 30, 40, 50, like to try to, and I don't mean grow up in the notion of like, you're so responsible now. I mean, like grow up in a way that like maybe you change your ideas and the way you do things. And, you know, I was telling Laird I was in this situation this week where something had gone down and I didn't like the way it had gone down. It wasn't to do with him. And I was like, you know what? I'm not going to attach to this. Like I know better. So now I'm just going to notice that it kind of bugs me, and I'm not going to attach all the way to that feeling and to that experience. And for me, that's more what I mean about growing up, not like being, you know, grown up. Because I actually think the more grown up we are also means we could probably be more childlike too.
For sure.
Both. So
Yeah.
it isn't about like be responsible. It's just a different freedom. So, I mean, I would think in the end that would be a more interesting quest than I was a champion anything.
Right.
I don't know. And it's not sexy and it's internal, but I don't know. It can be, I think, pretty rich.
Well, I think ultimately for a person who's experienced athletic highs and the highs of accomplishments, but also understands real personal struggle, that's when, like a person like you've experienced so many different things that you can understand what's actually beneficial towards you.
Right. And it's pretty simple. I hate to, that's kind of the heavy part. It's like being married to Laird. Like Laird wants to go to bed at 8:30 and Laird wants to get up early, and he keeps it pretty simple. And it's an interesting thing because within it, there's, he seems pretty good. I mean, as long as there's sometimes waves. Because that guy is like...
That seems like that's pretty straightforward.
Well, that's it, right?
Yeah.
Like, how do I get the highest ideas, the biggest ideas, you know, whether it's like dealing with ego or whatever, get the biggest ideas and then get everything else pretty stripped down, pretty simple.
Yeah.
Because otherwise I feel like you're running around. And I love the days I'm running around and I'm like, what am I reacting to? Like, what the fuck? Like, what is going on? Like, I'm like a crazy person.
Right.
And then it's like, okay, you know, you got to back it up. And listen, with kids, it's hard because you're only as good as like whatever your kids are going through. I mean, and then there's elements of it, like they're going through things and you go, it's probably pretty natural.
Yep.
Even if it's super hard. It's like, and that's okay too. And you don't want that for them. But I think, you know, that's something I've really learned is like, God, it's a bummer that you have to go through that. And it's hard to watch and I don't want you to. And that's okay too. Because that's part of.
It's really cool though to see them come out on the other end and then talk to you about it. Oh, it's not bothering me so much anymore. Oh, I'm all right.
Yeah.
I get it. Yeah, I was just upset, but I'm all right.
You know what? It was really cool thing I learned because I am, you know, listen, I'm pretty, not serious. I'd say I'm a pretty serious person. Like Laird is sort of the lighter person of the two of us. And someone sort of gave me some information about like not resisting with my kids. Like my oldest was going through something and I said, I just need to tell you how I feel about this. But I didn't make it a big deal. I just sort of dropped it off and said, hey, this is how I'm feeling. And she said to me very clearly, when she was like 22, this just feels like something I have to do. And I remember thinking, I felt like that. And nobody understood what I was doing. And I understood something I had to do for my reasons. And I was right for myself. And what I did is I just went, okay, I get it. And where I wanted her to end up happened so much quicker because I didn't put up the resistance. And that's the other thing. I mean, how long does it take me to learn that one? It's like, you know, not having to try to resist or navigate every single situation and just go, okay. And then you get through it so much faster. And they get through it.
No, I know you're like super into nutrition, and
Yep.
Laird has this. You guys have this company. that
Laird
you're-
Superfood.
Yeah. Do you force that stuff on your kids?
Are you kidding? My kids, if they want to eat pasta and whatever, they can eat whatever they
They
want.
eat whatever they want.
Yeah, because I cook dinner, so we know what dinner looks like. My kids, I always say, just know what's the difference between food and fun. Like, be clear, bagel is a lot of fun, but
Right.
it's not food.
Right.
Because I just want to send them into the world equipped with the information on how they can take care of themselves.
Right.
Because if you make anything a thing, don't have that. When they go to their friend's house, they'll have a bag of chips, the clicker, and they'll be like, I love it here.
Yeah.
So I am like, yeah, eat whatever you want. And my kids eat pretty healthy.
That's awesome that they listen that way.
They don't listen.
Well, that they figured it out, that they eat healthy, they're smart.
Well, also, okay, so my middle for a minute, like, never met a carb she didn't like, right? And it was like, it was bad for a minute. She was like 12, 13, whatever. And then, she knows the difference. And she was also using food to, kind of assuage some feelings and other stuff too. That's an interesting thing. But then she's come around. But it's not, let's not pretend that my kids listen. They don't.
They must a little.
No, they don't.
No? they must
don't.
see your example.
That's more it. They're watching, but they
they're
don't
watching.
listen. You'd think in a way Laird and I could be sort of maybe imposing parents in some way. And I'm telling you, they are not, they don't, it doesn't, they look at us like, what do you got? Like, come on, it's your move. So I've just learned, like, it's your choice. Like, this is what I'm serving for dinner. I don't have pop in the house, obviously. But if, like, we went someplace, I showed them a picture when they were little. Remember the guy who did, like, eat this, not that? Dave with the Z from Men's Health, the editor. Anyway, it was like 7 or 8 chocolate chip cookies and a Sunkist soda opposite each other. And I'm like, do you want 2 cookies or do you want that soda? And they got it. It's like, oh, okay. Because it showed how much sugar was in both. So it's just that kind of stuff. But they don't, it's not like we live so healthy and they listen. I mean, Ben Greenfield, right? He lives in like the forest and they eat. That's different. It's a different level of control. I don't have that kind of control.
Yeah, Ben's got a weird thing going on out there.
His kids listen.
Do they?
They must. They're out in the forest.
Well, they have to.
That's what I mean. I'm saying I don't have that level of containment.
Right.
That's something.
But he has to deal with predators.
Like living predators?
Yeah, you can't really let your kids just go loose in your backyard.
No, I
You
know.
gotta keep an eye on them.
It's easier than Coca-Cola and Cheetos, though, in a different kind of way. I'm just saying, like, predator's very straightforward. It's like, it's a predator. Don't go out there. It's like, well, this food, it's in a bag. It's got, it's not that good for you. Your cell function. It's like, okay, what? But my friends do it. It's like, predator. So I just think, I don't know. I just think, I think I've surrendered to the idea of them listening, and I've just tried to show them the best example. And they are intelligent people that I have faith in will arrive at their own conclusion. And by the way, they may make other choices. I don't think so, though.
How many kids leave Kauai? Like when they grow up?
Not many, I don't think. I think it's tough because it is so beautiful and magical, and on some level, intuitively, it makes so much sense there. You know what I mean? Like, it makes a lot of sense.
Right.
Like, the food's growing. There's certain things that, and you go into the real world and you're like, whoa.
Do they have good supermarkets there?
Yeah, it's just everything costs. A box of cereal is like $9.
Whoa.
No, for real. So it's hard, but some kids leave.
I would think that would be a difficult transition between going from Kauai to like moving to Chicago or something like that.
It can be, especially if it's like December, but I think you'd be surprised. Yeah, let me tell you, the cold is shocking when you come from an island. Like, Laird goes snowboarding in like Alaska and stuff like that because he loves all that.
Right.
But I grew up in St. Thomas, and I'm just like, 5 days in the cold, I'm like, this is so beautiful. And then I'm like, I'm good. But I think, listen, island people, they either like Jones for the big city or the number one tourist destination for Hawaiians. You know what it is?
What?
Vegas. Because it's opposite.
Really?
Well, because it's opposite, right? It's like everything's artificial, and then you have a lot of like Filipino, Japanese, Chinese, Hawaiians. So like fun gambling, things like that. Oh yeah, it's the number one, like Hawaiian Airlines, that's their number one destination for locals. They go to Vegas.
Wow.
Because it's the antithesis, right?
Yeah, I guess. You see the strip and all the neon and the craziness.
Totally.
And giant flashing this and that.
Not a drop of water or anything natural.
Right.
Like you're not really supposed to be there, like there's no Garden of Eden.
That makes sense.
Oh, totally.
That
So they
actually does make sense.
either they they go like, hey, I want to be a designer and live in New York, or
That's got to be the ultimate 180 culture shock.
they have that though for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. They have that.
I think I'm with Laird, though, about living there. Whenever I go there, I'm like, what in the fuck is this? I love it. I love New York for like a week.
Well, you can get stuff done in New York. And to
Yeah.
a real New Yorker, there's no other place like
Yeah,
New York,
I
right?
get
Like
it.
I can get whatever food I want exactly how I want it.
Yeah, there's that.
And I can get stuff done. And
You're also breathing brake dust all day.
yeah, it's tough. And I don't think we're supposed to be living stacked on
Thank
top of each
you.
other. That's the
Yeah.
thing. And Laird's always like, yeah, something goes wrong. This is the worst place you ever want to be. Like
true.
garbage, water, toilets. He's like, because
Rats.
he's always thinking about like, if they turn the power off, what's
Yeah.
going to happen?
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, so that's how he, kind of how he lives. I mean, we had a 100-year rain in Kauai in April,
What was that like?
5 feet in a day of
Holy
rain.
shit.
Yeah, it was pretty radical. So, and then we went through the fires. So it's just like, I think
You guys had fires and it rains that much?
well, no, then we were here in
Maui.
Malibu.
I was like,
And so we
Malibu,
had that
right.
like within 6 months after. So I think he's always, and I think, listen, when people do things in nature, like rock climbers or big wave surfers or whatever, they're more in tune with the fact that like stuff does go wrong.
Mm-hmm.
And so they're not assuming that it's always going to be as it always is. So I
Did you
think,
get hit with big storms out there?
where? In
On
Kauai?
Kauai.
Like hurricanes?
Yeah.
They haven't had really a significant one since Iniki, which I believe was in 92, which was
wow.
really bad. I think it was the fastest wind speed to hit land ever.
How far away are you guys as the crow flies from like the Big Island?
He's got it. Do you see he's got a thing for the Big Island? What's happened to you on the Big Island?
I love it there.
Did you have like an experience, or
No.
did you go on a
No, just
spiritual
enjoy it
journey
there.
or anything?
I like it there because it's like a good medium. Like
Yep, I
it's
get it.
Not quite as populated as Maui. It's not as metropolitan,
No,
but it's still pretty big. Whereas Lanai is probably my favorite.
really
Yeah, it's just nothing.
interesting. It's so quiet
It's
though.
So quiet. I love it.
Really?
And yeah, I hunt there
for like a day. Oh, there we go.
And
That
it's-
makes sense.
It's also overpopulated, so it's like the
Yeah.
most. It's like the best ethical argument for hunting
Yeah.
currently available in the United States of America.
Yeah.
If you want to call Hawaii the United States of America.
I know. If you ask a Hawaiian, like, oh, you're American, they're like, Hawaiian.
Yeah, they're Hawaiian.
Yeah, they're Hawaiian. Kauai is the most north, so it's the other end of the chain.
So how far away would it be?
So if you were going to fly in an airplane, it's an hour.
Oh,
Or
wow.
45 minutes because of takeoff and landing. If it was like straight, like we go on a plane, it's probably 28 minutes.
So how many miles is that? Because you're going 500 miles an hour. It's a couple hundred miles.
Yeah,
then.
it is.
Wow, I
Yeah.
didn't know.
Yeah,
Wow.
Yeah, no, I mean it's an amazing.
That's
There's a new island
crazy.
forming right now.
What?
Yeah,
That's
you have
outrageous.
I like your fascination with Hawaii.
Yeah. Oh, I love it out there. I really do.
Yeah, it's great.
Stephen Tower tried to talk me into moving to Maui. Yeah, he loves it out there.
Really?
He loves it. Loves it. Yeah.
Well, he gets off though.
Yeah, I mean, he flies around, does his Aerosmith shows, and does that television show and all that jazz, but he loves Maui.
Yeah.
You don't love it? Too much?
I do love Maui. I guess I lived there also when it was like a little less populated. So it's like anything, when you watch it, you just kind of go, whoa. But
Right,
it's a
right.
great blend for me.
Yeah.
It has
It's still nothing compared to this. Like, I was just...
yeah, that's right.
I mean, it's like, this is...
That's right.
What we're here is crazy.
LA is, what do we have, like 35 million people here or something?
Preposterous. They didn't even know, really. They're just guessing.
What are we, like the 9th largest economy in
in the world.
Yeah, I
on the
told
planet Earth.
when we had this whole thing with all the Mexican, the Mexican, whatever, non-illegal, whatever. I said, I have a friend of mine who he's from here, but he's from Mexico. And I said, you should band together. You have the 9th largest economy in the world. And get together and have demands because you're helping run the 9th largest economy in the world.
Well, that's what's hilarious about people that want the immigrants to go back to Mexico. Listen, stupid, this thing would fall apart.
That's what I
you don't
told
even know
him.
what you're talking about.
I go, mobilize, let's
Right.
go. And
well,
he was
that's
like,
what's crazy about it is like they're already a part of the system. Like,
That's
why don't they
amazing.
get the benefits?
that's what I think. But he
Yeah.
was laughing because when I went to see him, I go, oh, how's it going? He goes, well, hopefully I'm here tomorrow, joking, And I go, you guys, like, you're making it happen.
Yeah,
The
it's
night-
hard though to get people to organize like that. They're so worried about being shipped out. And now ICE. I had a friend of mine who was a veteran, and he's an older gentleman. He's in his 50s. He got pulled over at ICE.
Oh, come on.
At the Home Depot. They asked him where he was born, and he said, "Hey, asshole, you're not supposed to ask questions like that. Like, you don't have a warrant to do that." And he started grilling the guys, and he pulled out his military ID. He's like, "What the fuck are you guys doing here? What do you think you're doing?"
yeah.
And
It's
I was
awful.
like, "Yeah, I'm American. I was born in America."
Yeah.
He goes, "I'm an American citizen. I'm also a veteran." And then he goes like, "You guys, this is illegal. You're not supposed to talk to people like this."
But they can do that to people that don't know and are
Right.
scared.
Right.
I mean,
Yeah, but if you're just an American citizen at fucking Home Depot, you're not supposed to get harassed by some guy who thinks you might be Mexican because you're brown.
you have some brown skin.
Yeah, it's fucking crazy. But it's just also like, is this really where our problems are? What about using these resources in a positive way?
Well,
There's a lot of shit that needs to get done.
but that's everywhere. Think
Yeah.
about how much time gets spent on not doing anything
Yeah.
and going the other direction.
A
I
whole
don't
lot.
know.
Well, isn't that less of a problem though when you have a small community like Hawaii? That's got to be like a huge alleviation of frustration. This is just the giant masses of people and the stupid jobs everywhere. It's like you guys kind of boiled down to a much more natural state.
Well, and it's all very accountable, right? Like if I say something to you, I don't get to walk away from that.
Right, you're on a fucking little island.
I'm going to see it 50 more times that day. And so I got to own it. If I, and that was all Laird's biggest adjustment is because everything he, does and says, he owns it. And so when he first came here and like even driving, if someone flicked him off, like you just don't do that in Hawaii.
Right.
Because you're like, I know your truck. Like I know you, I know your
Right.
sister. Like I'm coming to your house. Like what are you talking about? Right.
Yeah.
And I've been with him where he has pulled people over and said, listen, like you can't go and just like drop off aggressive gestures. You just don't know what's up with people. Like you've got to be accountable. Like this,
Yeah.
and I'm like, okay, well, you cannot stop every vehicle, and jump out and be like, hey,
Right.
But
Does he
I
do
don't
that
know.
here or does he do that there?
No, he's done it here. No, you don't have to do it there.
Right,
'Cause
but
there,
if you do it here, it's dangerous.
yeah, I guess.
Can be.
It can be. It's true. It can be. And
Yeah.
and but again, he's older and wiser now. I'm talking about like maybe when we first were together in his early
Right.
30s.
Crazy Laird.
But he still has a look in his eye where it's like, I don't know.
Yeah, I get it.
Like,
Well, if you're really used to that environment too, where everybody is accountable, and then you see these just assholes
yeah.
beeping
Well,
and
that's
sticking
it.
the
And
finger
also,
at people.
if you really said, okay, let's go
Yeah.
outside, they'd be like, I'm going to get a lawyer.
Right.
I think for him, that's the weird, twisty part. It's like in Hawaii, if they say it, it's like, okay, let's go.
Right.
At least it's like, okay, I'm going to stand up to own the words I say and everything. Here, it's like, if you go, okay, and they go, I'm going to call somebody. It's like, he's like, okay, well, which is it? Like I always tell my kid that my one daughter does that. She'll be like really aggressive. And then if you call her on it, she gets like, she's the victim. I go, no, you have to pick. Like, which one are you? Are you like aggressive or are you the victim? But I don't know. I think it's interesting. He will call people out every time though. If they're acting weird, he'll just say like, what's up? Or how's your day today? And I'm like, oh, people are not accustomed to,
Right.
because in Hawaii, they're just very respectful that way. And
Well, there's accountability, and I think that
It's
there's
very
something-
important.
Yeah, there's also a lot of fighters come out of Hawaii.
well, because it's a warrior culture. So, like uncles slap boys' heads and it's also now because of the Brazilian influence coming in. Now you've got, jujitsu and also think about this, they're pretty strong, right? And so contact, they don't mind little contact. Like they even joke about like Polynesian rugby players. Like it's like, oh, fun. Like, oh, haha, like we're leveling each other.
Right.
So you're also talking about people who maybe they don't mind a little contact.
Yeah.
Like playful, because they are also playful. Mm-hmm. So it's also like this weird thing of like I don't take myself so serious. So
Right.
there's like a playfulness, but also like, oh, we're gonna Do you notice a big difference between like female athletes and male athletes? Like, okay, because fighting is a pretty, I don't want to say exaggerated, but it's an interesting thing where, you know, you have men and women kind of differently, but doing the same thing, if you will.
Yeah.
Do you notice a difference in their mentality?
Well, they vary so much individually. That's what's interesting. It's like you'll find even male fighters who are like super laid back, and then you find other ones that are really intense and super emotional, and it's really hard to tell. Like there's Gunnar Nelson is a guy from Iceland. Do you know who he is?
I know who he is.
Yeah, a fantastic jiu-jitsu guy. You cannot get that guy to change his expression. It doesn't change. You can punch him, kick him in the balls. He stays stoic. He's a weird guy.
Yeah.
He's very on one side of it, and then there's like guys like Conor McGregor, who's also his training partner, who's on a completely different side of it. He's screaming and yelling, talking shit to everybody, and you know that's part of his flair.
Right.
You know, they vary so widely, and that's true with girls too. Some girls are brash and outrageous, and they get in other girls' faces and put their knuckles on their nose, and they're at the stare down, and other girls bow and they hug and they take selfies together. It's like everyone has their own sort of approach to it.
Yeah.
It's very interesting.
It is interesting. Fighting intrigues me in that I think it's interesting that you're trying to be offensive and defensive at the same time, dealing with fear, like all these things happening simultaneously. And I then I look at it one step further with a female, because I don't know. I'm interested to know how if a female can fight from a not a non-emotional place, but without her emotion. Like just like, okay, I'm in my male, I'm in my athlete, and I'm not going to be like, oh, she didn't just kick me in the ear, you know, and like freak out. You know what I mean? Like, because I think about myself and I'd be like, you know, like right. I've only been in one fight my whole life, and the girl hit me in the face, and when I saw my blood, I was like, oh no, she did not just hit me in the face, you know, and then went crazy. But if these girls could be like, because they're so well trained as an athlete, how that can supersede like or override actually like this that feminine impulse of like a reaction.
That's a masculine impulse too, though. I think it's a human impulse. If a guy punches you in the face, you get furious. It's so hard for people to not get emotional when they get hit.
Yeah,
because you want to get it back.
That's a good point.
It's a very bad way to react in a fight, to fight with emotions, because you expose yourself.
Right.
You leave yourself open for counters. You just you miss your rhythm. You're not as deceptive in your emotions. You're too obvious in your pattern, and so many times you get hit a lot more. Yeah, it's a big problem with fighters. That emotion is a very big problem, and the wanting to break people, like letting them hit you so that you could show them that they can't hurt you. That's a masculine thing too. Mm-hmm. Stupid. It's very stupid. Take it on the face on purpose, and then just like, come on, hit me.
That's what you have.
And yeah. And then that's a terrible emotion though, because you can get completely knocked unconscious doing that. Happens all the time. It's just the smart thing to do is to fight with correct technique and with a correct strategy, meaning you have an understanding of how to execute best. It's not to just wade in and let bombs fly. It's you have to be very precise in your tactics. You got to be very smart.
I think it's interesting though, those sports where there is that. I mean, listen, versions of it is football. You know, living with Laird, obviously. You know, he always says he appreciates Mother Nature because it's like you make good decisions, you're rewarded. You make bad decisions, you pay a price. But I think it is very interesting when you have two humans strategically trying to deconstruct one another. The physical chess that goes on, like looking at it from another athlete's point of view. I think it's a unique person that wants to put themselves in that situation.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, I understand almost like, a surfer and a wave and a rock climber and a mountain. I get that. Like, I'm going to be a part of that. Mm-hmm. But I find it really interesting. And even I'm even more curious about women, like, who say, like, yeah, this is going to be my sport.
They vary so widely. Like there's Holly Holm, who's...
she just seems like awfully sweet.
She's so sweet.
She seemed like she'd bring you cupcakes or
Meanwhile,
something.
she'll murder you. She'll kick your fucking head.
I saw that. I mean, listen, I saw that kick. But then it's like, I'm so sorry I made you these after, like chocolate chip cookies. It's like, okay, I'll get it, when I come back from the hospital.
Right.
I don't know. It is interesting when you see girls like that.
Yeah, well, they're all different.
I always want to know, do they have brothers? Like, were they rabble rousing and that their whole time, and they learned to play, and it wasn't personal, and like a little contact was okay.
Maybe. I mean, in Ronda Rousey's case, it was very
her mom,
personal.
Right?
Yeah, her mom was a world judo champion. Her mom was a beast. She's
had an interesting path, I think, Ronda Rousey.
Yeah, I wonder how much she loves the WWE. I always wonder when a person is like an elite athlete at the highest level. A real one. If they still enjoy doing that, because I think she enjoyed it, though. I think she was a fan of it before she ever got involved. You mean like the theater
of it?
Yeah, I think she actually enjoyed pro wrestling. And
they are doing athletic things, even though it's scripted. Mm-hmm. Obviously, flying off of and into and around.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it's athletic, but it's scripted.
Yes, it's not competition. But then again, you can only get knocked unconscious so many times. You can only get fucked up so many times. And she got fucked up 2 fights in a row.
I know.
Really bad. The Holly Holm KO, which was
brutal.
Ruthless.
That was brutal.
And then Amanda Nunes just punched her face in for 48 seconds. It was horrific.
Yeah.
That was hard to watch.
I don't like to watch, I don't like to watch really big guys punch each other and women. I don't know why. Like when guys are a little smaller, it's easier to watch as long as they're not kicking themselves in the head. I'm just saying.
So the big scary ones, like heavyweights,
well, because then you just
other.
You just go, oh my God, that guy that took 8 years off that guy's,
Yeah, it's definitely different. You really do notice it. Like there's certain heavyweights and they hit guys and they get knocked unconscious, whether it's Francis Ngannou or Stipe Miocic or these big guys, and they slam someone. It's like, oh my God.
That's what I mean. Like I watch that. I don't actually, I mean violence. I know it's sport, but for me it's...
it's violent.
It is, yeah.
Yeah. It is a very dangerous path that you have to know when to get off. And more, I don't know if I would say more so than other combat sports, but...
Yep. It makes sense.
I think all of them have a path, but I think very specifically MMA has. You have to be really careful because the consequences are so great. There's not enough padding in those gloves. They're tiny little things. You could also get kicked. You could get kneed in the face, elbowed in the face, and once you realize the chin starts going and your reflexes start going and you're slowing down, like you got to get out now.
Move out, yeah.
You got to get out.
Yeah.
And sometimes they don't get the proper advice. And sometimes they don't know what else to do. They don't have anywhere else to go.
And that goes back to...
Yeah.
I talked to Laird about that because we have tons of friends in organized sports. So if like you have to be drafted or the team has to pick you up or, whatever. And I say to him, like, how fortunate are you that you're in a sport like other athletes, like a snowboarder or whatever, that you can go.
Yeah.
You can go out.
Yeah.
You want to ride? You can go ride. Nobody's dictating to you.
Right.
And if you're really smart and you're managing yourself and your health and your well-being and your melon and everything else, you could ride a really long time.
Yeah, that's a big difference between that and a competitive fighter. 55 years of age, you aren't doing shit. Yeah.
Getting hit over and over?
No chance. I mean, you could still train in certain aspects, especially jiu-jitsu. A lot of people deep in their 60s, 70s, 80s train. You can definitely do that, but there's such a difference. Laird can go out there and do what he wants to do at the same level he was able to do 2 decades ago.
I know. It's exhausting, actually, to live with. Swear to God. Because I feel like Laird is like, in this way of like when you live with somebody that's sort of, it's like, I mean, you have a partner. It's like, in ways, they're a reference to you in certain ways.
Yeah.
And so if like living with him and you're referencing him as an athlete, you're just like, oh man, I gotta get busy. I gotta get training. I gotta get moving. It's just like, cause he's nonstop, that guy. And because he has to. That's a different type.
Right.
I a lot of times I'll train because I'm like, hey, I know how good I feel when I'm done and it's important and I have other stuff I need to do, but I'm going to get it in. And for a guy like that, it's just like, what it would be like if I took an 80-pound dumbbell and sat at the bottom of the pool for a minute and then tried to do 15. It's just like he also has a creative approach. I'm more linear and it's like for time and for this. And he's like, let's just go until we can't anymore. It's like, okay, when's that drill going to end? You know what I mean?
Do you train with him?
Only in the pool. I'm telling you got to come with a friend,
Okay.
and someone that you feel safe with. And I'm going to be honest with you. We have fighters and trainers have the hardest time in the pool.
Really?
Yes, and I'll tell you why. A lot of them are built, they have a lot of mass, okay? Like, so number one, right there, just the mass. Like, you're more dense, you go to the bottom.
Yeah.
Okay. The other side of it is they're used to doing everything quickly. And the water's like, awesome that you want to do it quick. This is how we're going to do it. Right. And so it's a pretty cool environment. But we've had fighters and trainers, and they're built for it. But once, obviously once they get the hang of it, but I think it's pretty special, the training, because when you're done, again, it goes back to, I am like a noodle. You're exhausted and your joints are not just hammered.
And this is called XPT? Is that what you call
that's
it?
XPT. It's like, it's part of the
whole thing. Is there a protocol online that you could follow?
Yeah. I mean, with the pool training, though, it's like you have to kind of do it with somebody.
Someone has to show you how?
Yeah. I mean, we started originally, it was like we'd wear weight vests. And Laird's like, just go tread as long as you can. And it's like, okay, I think I'm good now. Like, I cannot swim anymore. I can't tread anymore. And then it was actually one of my daughters. She might have been like 6 or 7 at the time, maybe younger, and she would swim to the surface with a dumbbell. And Laird's like, oh, what if you had reps? And you do sequencing where you're on an exhale or on an inhale or whatever. He'll go from like a Versa climber or a bike and have your heart rate way up and then go, okay, now you're going to do the set. So it's like there's all these ways to adapt, and it's pretty cool. I think for people who train, that's the whole thing, is how do you keep modifying? Like, do you get locked in like on your training, or do you keep going, okay, I've heard you talk about like, oh, I've added yoga and all these things. Like, that's the other thing, is like you get pretty good at something, but now how do you keep kind of adding? Doing things that you're sort of unsure, you're uncomfortable, you're not good at. I think that's always been easier for Laird than me. I've always sort of gone like, well, no, I'm good over here. Like, I do this good. It's like, okay, change it up. So I think that's a thing. So that has everything. We do a lot of breathing, heat and ice. Because his other thing is like active recovery. People go, oh, I'm have a day off. It's like, okay, so what are you going to do to actively recover, not just take the day off? So I think he's, been really into that. But
so active recovery, meaning you do some
like
other
either
light
breathing
sport
or something mellow, so that you can participate in helping the body actually recover, not just sit around.
Right. How
and
much
undoing.
of a benefit is that in like doing something physical as opposed to just sitting around doing nothing?
I think it makes a huge difference, because
Really?
I don't think it's about I have to tax my adrenals or my nervous system or any of that. I think it's okay, I'm going to take a yin yoga class, so the poses are long. It won't be like necessarily a high flow class. Or I'm going to do multiple series of heat and ice. Like some days he'll go and just do 3 rounds in the sauna and 3 rounds on the ice. Or I'm going to do 35 or 45 minutes of breathing, recovery breathing, things like that, to really oxygenate the tissue and the cells and things like that. So I think it's just kind of looking at what a day off looks like and making that something that you participate in supporting the recovery, not just I laid around. Now, having said that, there are days where after you're done with that, yeah, great, lay around. Like, go to sleep early, eat extra, more calories, whatever you need to do. But I think active recovery, even riding a bike, flushing the system, the tissue, things like that. I think people think, off means like nothing. And I think doing something, or for certain athletes, like maybe get a massage that day. That might be the best thing, So I think for him, it's feeling it out.
Do you guys use any electronics, like in terms of apps or heart rate monitors or anything along those lines?
Not too much. I used to use a Fitbit. Laird uses a oximeter to, like, if he does breathing, to see if he can get himself up to altitude. So he'll use that to measure and things like that. But I think once you do something a really, really long time, you sort of go, am I on the edge or aren't I? He'll use electronics more for speed and distance. He'll put it on his boards and be like, okay, we went X miles and the peak speed was whatever, 50 miles an hour. So he'll use it more for that, to measure distance on how many miles he rode each day on the water, but not necessarily micromanaging electronically all the metrics. Now, having said that, if you were an athlete where, little seconds here and there made a difference, maybe you would.
Right.
Or, checking your heart rate and things like that, but not too often. No.
Yeah, I would think that like things like heart rate variability, finding out if you're recovering correctly, whether or not your heart rate varies in the morning,
right,
day to day. But yeah, that makes a big difference between if you're doing something like Michael Phelps or something like that.
I think so, or track athlete, where it's all these milliseconds. I think for Laird, it's like, I feel good today, and I'm gonna go.
Well, there's a lot more natural. It's a more natural thing, isn't it? Like,
don't you have those days like you go, wow, I'm tired today, and I'll just kind of do the best I can.
Yeah.
But I think I understand wanting to measure things and also sort of saying I feel tired, because there's an interesting thing of feeling tired physically, but you're actually emotionally tired, because if you look at your metrics on your physical, you have a lot more to give. And so it's kind of then checking in and saying, well, what's going on? For me, I'm usually more tired personally than I am physically.
That makes sense.
Especially
with your 11-year-old giving you shit.
Brody, man. She's awesome. But that's what I'm saying. Yes. I could be wiped out.
Right.
I could train for an hour and I could hang out with Brody 13 minutes in the car and she's the victor. Her foot's on my hip and she's standing, in the pose. And that has been my lesson. That's one of my many lessons, ongoing lessons, is like, you cannot go at everything head on. And I've learned that certainly being in a marriage. I developed a little bit of finesse, and as a parent, just kind of going like, I'm here to love you, I'm here to support you, and I'm also going to recognize that, you're probably not going to always do it, hardly ever actually, the way I think you should, or I want you to.
So what made you guys start putting together the coffee and the superfood supplements and all that
just
jazz?
By accident, really. What happened is Laird he's been in, as long as I've known him, he's had coffee come from all around. He's a coffee freak. And then what happened is Paul Chek, 16 years ago, gave him ghee in his coffee. And the two of those animals would be like down in the coffee well, getting all jacked up on caffeine. And I'd be standing in the gym waiting for them, being like, oh my God, like hanging out with these two, for the next 2 hours, ramped up on fat and coffee, which is basically the Dave Asprey concept of like yak butter tea and, fat and things like that. So the bulletproof concept. So Laird used to start to mess around with elements to add to the caffeine for the performance. And then we had a guy that we work with, I think for about 3 years, we'd have guys come over and they'd be like, hey, can you make me one of those coffees? And after a while, they'd start sending me emails like, well, how much coconut and how much this and how much that did he put in? And our friend Paul was like, do you mind if I try to put it together in a formula? And I was like, yeah, whatever. And it wasn't with the intention of having a business. And then before you know it, it came out. And so then we have like original creamer with unsweetened. There's turmeric. There's hydrate products. It's all based on things that Laird really eats and uses. And, mushroom blends that I actually that's how I do my coffee in the mornings. I put that in and do that. So, that's another good example of like, if you're doing something because you really believe in it and really, and that business has, we're really fortunate. We have a factory in Sisters, Oregon, and they built another one. And
oh, wow.
Yeah, no, we have no, like, they do everything, like no co-packing partners. We do it. And now we're looking into farming ingredients and doing a drying factory so we can do that and put that into the product and things like that. So I don't know. I think it started from a genuine passion and came into that. And, I always say too, like, I was playing volleyball at 18, in college at 17, and then I started working and was sort of doing other jobs by 18 or 19. But Laird, his path has been really different, and really he didn't get in surfing. People like they maybe knew who Laird was. He was sort of always on the outside, but then it's really he was like 35 years old when someone from the outside went, "Oh, that's kind of cool." So 35 would be considered old, I think, for an athlete.
Yeah.
And I think it's somebody who thought, I have something inside me telling me to go forward. And I think that I feel that same way. Like, people have said to me, like, well, why did you do this or that? I go, because I could feel it inside. It's like, that from what you do, because you've done a lot of different things. And and just kind of not only trying to develop that, but try to trust it and say, even though I don't see it all clearly right now, I feel it, and I'm going to just keep following that feeling. And it doesn't always lead to some grand destination, but maybe those lessons and that place lead you to the next, which could be, a place that, brings you other things. So, yeah, these businesses are just a natural byproduct of our lifestyle, but it's pretty great.
It's pretty awesome. Got great stuff.
I didn't start drinking coffee till I was 45.
Really?
Yeah, because Laird would be like, because then he was like, try this one and try that and try this. I liked caffeine. I just wasn't into coffee.
How would you take it?
Like yerba mate teas and stuff. I get all jacked up on that stuff. That stuff. You ever drink that stuff?
Yeah, it's good stuff.
You better go straight to whatever you're doing. Because I have a yerba mate and I'm like, tell my kids, you get your stuff? You're in the car? You have your bags? Let's go. And they're just like, did you have a yerba mate? Like you're a crazy person. So, and now I've switched to the caffeine with the fats. But I like it. And I like the business aspect of it, quite frankly. Like for me, that's interesting too.
Well, you guys make cool stuff.
Well, thank you. I'll send you more.
You're great on podcasts. Do you do podcasts?
I had a podcast with Neil Strauss.
And did you stop doing it?
Yeah, Neil's a busy guy. And we had a podcast.
Did you do your own?
We did it in the sauna.
Oh, wow.
We called the Truth Barrel. That's what it was called. We were literally in the sauna in our bathing suits. Because our group, when we get together, we would sit in the sauna. And you know this, if you have friends over, you go, hey, you know what? I'm having love problems. Okay, we got 8 minutes because it's fucking 200 degrees. Like, let's get into it. You're half naked, so you're sort of, there you are.
Right.
And so I got an invitation to do a podcast. And so I thought Neil and I are so very, very different, like really different. And I thought it'd be more interesting to have us with our points of view. Because then you also realize that as different as we are, we're really looking for the same things. We're trying to figure out love. We're trying to be parents. We're trying to work, take care of ourselves, age, whatever, all the stuff you're navigating. And so we did that for like a year and a half. It was a lot of fun. And people were like in their bathing suits, sweating at my house, in the sauna, in the Truth Barrel, because that's what we always called it. You can't lie in the sauna.
But they're only like 10 minutes long?
No, we would open the door.
Oh.
But it was like, and I try to turn it way down, because Laird has our sauna to 220.
220?
I go in there
You're
and
getting cooked.
No, it's exactly right. But if you couple it with the ice, you're sort of grateful for the 220. So I try to turn it down to like 120. And inevitably, the next day when it was our real life sauning, Laird's like, who's been messing with the dial in my sauna? It's like this whole thing. And I'm like, well, we were shooting. We can't sit in there for an hour. You see people, they're like, can I go out? And they jump in the pool and then come back in. It was really fun. I liked it because there's something like you just get right to it.
Right. Well, why don't you just do it on your own?
You know what, Joe? I listen to your podcast a lot, and I think to myself, very few people can do what you do. I think it's really important to not only like recognize when someone does something really well, because everyone thinks, oh, I could do that. It's like, well, no, you can't actually. And so for me, I'm very curious about people. And, I used to do a lot of TV where I'd interview athletes. Like that was more interesting to me than being interviewed, because that's how you learn. Like you go, okay, how do you do it? I know how I do it. I don't need to know that. I need to know what you're doing. And I just think it does interest me, but I would want to do it right and not just assume like you can do it, because to do it really well it's a special talent.
I just had a lot of practice. If you go back and listen to the early ones, they sucked. You just get better at it.
Yeah, no, and I get that too. But I think it's just knowing. I think this is important in all things in life, because we like something. Not maybe for me, because I do really like this. Is just because we like something doesn't mean we have to do that too.
Right.
Like I think it's still like drilling down on what do you want to do. Like, because when I hear you go from a comedian to like a scientist, a physicist to it's like. It shows your genuine passions in all these areas. And that's what's interesting. I mean, I always want to talk about like, how do you get it done? I'm so interested in how people, if they can arrive at any place where there's a sense of like joy moving in and out of their life and self-care. And because I think when people talk about health and fitness or wellness, I think they're off the mark about what it really is. I think for me, what I've learned is like, I train and eat well just so I have a fighting chance to support any kind of happiness. And it isn't just about like, I'm ripped, not me, but like this notion of what people are putting out there that fitness is. It's like, that's all great. But if you still haven't figured out some of these other things as a person, it's like, I don't know, it seems like you're wrestling the wrong things. So I'm always really interested in, and also in not only how they get it done, but also not making it seem like it's so easy. It's like I always joke, like when people do interviews and they go, how are your children? Oh my God, they're amazing. And I'm like, my kids are amazing too. And they, crush our balls on a daily basis. And isn't that everybody's house? Or people will say to me, do you and Laird ever fight? We have, and we haven't always had perfect, there's been times where it was like, maybe we're not going to stay together. And I guess for me, that would be really interesting, is to communicate in a way that's like, it's not gratuitous, but at least like, hey, you're being kind of honest about like what it is.
Yeah.
And now, like, I'm almost 50. It's like, even aging, like having a realistic but good conversation about like, hey, how's that going? Not like, I feel great. I do feel great. I do. I feel great.
I'm sure you do.
But there are days where you go, oh, time.
You're a real human.
Time's moving.
Yeah.
Sometimes I said that to Laird, because you don't want to be that wife. Do I look old to you? It's like, he doesn't notice. You know what I mean? I said today, it was funny. I had a thing like, I realized like time's moving, and he goes, mm-hmm. Because he knows what that means, and I'm sparing him that whole conversation, because that's like a girlfriend conversation. That's like not one that you have with your partner. I think it's important to like, go down the hole with him on other things.
Right.
I do observe that. Sometimes I look outside and I go, yeah, this is not a conversation you want to have with Laird. Save that for, your girlfriend.
You have so much to say. I think it's like a natural progression for you to do another podcast, to do your own.
I don't know.
You have so much bouncing around.
Yeah. I feel like I'm so boring.
You're not boring at all.
No, I swear to God, I feel like,
It's probably because you think about yourself so much. You're probably annoyed that you're thinking about yourself.
Yeah.
Trying to fix this and change that and adapt here and evolve there. If you're really paying attention.
Well, because why I was even a decent athlete is just like, I was just trying to get it.
Yeah.
And I know as a human, we can never get it.
Right.
And that's a moving target. But I feel like the pursuit of trying to be one's best self is probably worth spending some time on.
You appreciate your existence more, I think, when you are on that path.
I think so. And I think especially when you've had the opportunity also to do a lot of really cool stuff, I almost think it becomes a responsibility, because you're not fighting certain fights.
Right.
Like certain battles, you don't even I don't have to. I have 3 jobs, but I chose 3 jobs. It's not like you're just trying to survive. Like those people, it's like, hey, I get it. But I feel like if you go like, hey, I got to do that and this and this, it's like, yeah, cool. What are you doing? Like, what else are you going to do? I think that becomes a worthy task. And also, like, I'm trying to stay married. I'm trying to be a decent mom, things like that. And so that takes probably some work.
Well, it does, but I really think that there's value in expressing that. And that
you do?
Yes, I do. Yeah. I'm sure a lot of people are agreeing right now. Like, yeah, do a podcast, Gabby.
You know what it is? This is what my ultimate hope would be, is that somehow, and this is, I think, why I love your show, because I hear it over and over, and you don't say it per se of saying it, but it's there always in an underlying way. It's like power and love, always. Like, be your most badass self all the time that you can. Have fun, kick ass, and maybe be kind.
Yeah.
Like for me, those are the ultimate, because all the people that I see where I'm like, oh, they could kick your ass and love you. I think that's really powerful. I mean, I respond to that because it feels important right now.
I think you're absolutely right. I think this is a good way to end this.
Okay.
Let's do it.
Mahalo.
So thank you. Thanks
Thank
for
you.
being here. I really
Thanks, Joe.
appreciate it. I
Thank
really
you.
enjoyed it.
Thank you.
Tell people your Instagram, your social media.
At Gabby Reece. If they want to check out the pool training, XPT, and just get people to take care of themselves.
Mahalo. Bye, everybody.
Aloha.
That was great.